Okay, good morning to everyone present here today. My name is Khalil Maji.
My name is Nasrul
Okay,
Sofian.
Nasrul Sofian.
Junte. And Willie.
Justin Wong.
And we are part of a one-man short production. And for this semester, what we did was we produced a documentary on a slightly more serious topic, on the topic of refugees. So we spent, so what you want to watch is the culmination of about 4 months of our work together as a team on the topic of the Rohingya refugees in Malaysia. And we hope that you actually enjoy what we produced so far. So, enjoy. Thank you.
Okay, time.
No, off the back.
Lights. Action.
Saya dilahirkan di Myanmar di salah satu kawasan konflik. Jadi atuk saya pun sudah meninggal, nenek saya pun dah dibunuh, tak ada satu lagi. Hampir setahun lah perkara ini berulang dan manfaatlah ayah saya dia tak perlu dan tinggal di negara ini. Mungkin bapak saya fikir kena jadi negara yang lebih selamat. Dia pun tak tahu dia nak menuju dekat mana. Kawan-kawan dia kan just keluar saja dari negara. Bukannya kami naik rumah terbang, masuk dalam hutan, keluar hutan, sungai lah, apa lah semua. Jadi saya tak kisah sebenarnya kita semua ini warga kubur sungai. Nama saya Rafiq Ismail. Saya berumur 49 tahun dan tinggal di Malaysia hampir 25-30 tahun.
Burma's ethnic tension is about to burst into the open once more. Among the crowd are monks.
Tentara Myanmar itu sendiri yang kejam, yang dia tak kenal siapa. Diorang ni macam telah dirasuh, macam dirasuh oleh syaitan kecil, saya tak tahu. Dia tak kenal, dia tak tahu. Yang penting dia nampak orang dia akan bunuh. Budak kecil, orang tua, dewasa. Dia pun tak kenal itu orang agama apa, bangsa apa. Nampak dia akan bunuh. Kami hampir-hampir dia nak bunuh pula. Tapi mungkin Allah itu maha kaya. Dia nak panjangkan umur kami. Kami ni satu hari itu bila diorang campak bom api, kami terselamat sebab tertinggal satu pokok besar. Kami lindungi di bawah pokok itu. Tapi senyap je lah semua, 5-6 beradik ni kumpul kat situ. Bapak saya cakap, diam, jangan bising. Bapak saya ambil mak saya dengan makcik saya seorang dua, ambil keluar dari negara itu. Isu Rohingya ini sensitif, sensitif kok. Tak tahu lah, mungkin ramai orang fikir sensitif. Saya pun fikir, saya tak fikir itu sensitif. Tapi orang jadi kayak ini sensitif. Sebab orang Rohingya ditindas 10 tahun, bukan 1-2 hari. 10 tahun, 70-80 tahun lah orang Rohingya ini ditindas. Etnik ini ditindas daripada A sampai Z. Dia ditindas dari sudut ekonomi, ditindas dari sudut budaya, agama, pendidikan, apa saja mereka ditindakkan terus. Ini bukannya Buddhis buat Islam, bukan Islam buat Buddhis, no. Ini dari politician buat ini semua. Sebab saya nak tanya, mana dalam Buddhis ada tulis suruh bunuh orang ke? Bukan dengan cara pergi bawa pedang, bukan cara pergi pukul orang, bukan, tak boleh. Saya tak benci Buddhis dekat Myanmar. Sebab yang buat ini bukannya Buddhis dekat Myanmar, bukan.
I've always been against violence, especially in politics. And I'm sorry that our people are not able to settle their differences across the table and talking to one another.
Orang-orang yang plan nak buat ini etnik, dia mula ini supaya dia untung dalam politik dia.
With regard to whether or not the Rohingya are citizens of the country, that depends very much on whether or not the they meet the requirements of the citizenship laws as they now exist.
Orang Rohingya telah menunjuk di negara Arkan State sejak 1400 tahun dulu lagi. Dia bukan kaum pendatang yang diceritakan hari ini, bukan.
As far as Malaysia is concerned, Rohingya is regarded as illegal immigrants. The Refugee Convention of 1951 provides protection to refugees. It provides for the minimum standard that states must accord to refugees. There are 147 countries that are parties to the convention. Unfortunately, Malaysia is not one of them.
Sudah duduk sekitar 39 juta yang minta nombor jemput sudah
85% pelarian atau etnik Rohingya ini tidak berpendidikan, tidak tahu menulis, tidak tahu membaca. Jadi suara mereka siapa nak dengar? Dia mau bagi tahu alim dalam bahasa apa? Takkan dia datang ke Malaysia terus boleh cakap Melayu? Nak cakap bahasa Inggeris dia tak pandai. Sebab mereka tidak diberi hak pendidikan di negara asal. Mereka yang tidak bersekolah ini, tidak tahu, tidak ada pendidikan itu. Dia rasa yang pelarian ini akan dibantu oleh negara Islam karena dia sama-sama agama Islam. Tapi ini tidak berlaku di sini. Malaysia pun bukan jalankan undang-undang Islam yang betul. Betul tak? Jadi dia ikut betul-betul pun dia ikut British law. Jadi ini pelarian yang tidak ada sekolah, dia tidak tahu. Yang Malaysia memang dia tidak bertindak ikut undang-undang Islam. So memang kerajaan Malaysia dia tak boleh tolong orang ikut Islam.
I don't suspect that it's kind of the fear that if Malaysia will be a party, there will be influx of foreigners into this country, and then that would upset the ethnic balance in this country. So maybe politically it might not be good to the party in power. We would, I think, benefit if we were to accept the refugees. We would benefit, legalize them. At the moment, they are not properly absorbed into our labor force because they are what we call undocumented people.
Saya tidak dapat keduanya saja. Encing, Mu, saya ada 32 etnik yang ada di Malaysia, kecil-kecil semua. Dia harus refugee dekat sini. Islam kata manusia adalah ciptaan Allah. Jadi walaupun dia ini bukan Islam, bukannya, saya tidak ada masalah pada dia. Kristian ke Buddhis ke Hindu, saya tidak ada masalah. Kalau dia perlu, kita harus tolong dia. Sebab dia manusia macam kita. Saya tak boleh kata saya ustaz, saya boleh kawan dengan orang. Atau orang yang bukan ustaz tidak semestinya boleh kawan dengan ustaz. Ini jangan ada semua sempadan ini. Begitu juga kita, apa salahnya kalau kita ada kawan-kawan beragama pula. Kita pun tanya dia, jangan anggap itu sensitif. Kamu tanya dia sensitif. Macam mana tanya itu mesti ada berakhlak lah. Saya pun tak, saya bukan orang pandai. Saya sekadar berani kerana benarnya. Saya berani kerana benar. Saya tahu mereka perlu. Saya tahu mereka ditindak. Dunia kata begitu dan saya sendiri pernah mengalami. Jadi saya jemputlah semua masyarakat dunia. Kalau boleh kita harus pakai membantu satu teknik ini selesaikan masalah dia. Andai kata konflik di Myanmar ini selesai dengan aman, InsyaAllah kami dan rakan-rakan kami akan cuba balik ke negara asal untuk membangunkan negara itu sendiri dari segi agama, budaya, ekonomi.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is I will be doing the final global presentation now. I am the producer of the group. So first off, I just want to highlight a couple of things. First, things that I realized while producing this documentary with my group. First off, one of the few things I realized was there was this misconception, these four basic misconceptions about the job, which is it's a practically facile position. It's not. It feels like the idea is that the producer does not do much in the team. He's pretty much a glorified sort of financial planner. All he does is work with money and doesn't really contribute to the overall production of the videos. He's also sort of, the idea of a producer is also sort of like a boss sort of character, a person who just stands over his crew and tells them what to do. And finally, there's this also misconception of producers being highly temperamental. And in that, there is very little to show for what producers actually do at the end of the day. Just take all the glory and just walk away from it. However, in doing this, what I realized was that the producer has to be a part of the production process in nearly everything. And these are the few things that I did while doing the production. Initially, in the pre-production, I was party with the team in working to generate ideas. What I'm saying here is basically that initially we worked together to find ideas together. We had we decided to work with three basic ideas, and they were on autism, the refugees that we just did, and also on the fishermen. And through this, we worked to finalize the best idea, to do the best shot, to do the best documentary that we could do. Next, also, I worked on anticipating audience, trying to figure out who the best audience would be, how far we can go with this with some people, what sort of working on the demographic scales to figure out where and what can we produce that will be interesting to as many people as possible. For this, I suppose what we've done is it's more of a serious topic, so it would more or less work with anyone, be of interest to people within the age bracket of over 20s. Because by that time, we suppose that this is when people come to realize that these issues are important to society. Next, I was part of the lead research team, and I led the research team as well in finding information and providing as much facts to the documentary itself. And this was an important point because we needed to make sure that all the facts we had beforehand were there, because we were going to use facts and try to vet the things that were going to be said by our subject. Also, financial planning. The point with the financial planning here, at least, is we will. Before we even began this production, there was this agreement amongst the team that there would not necessarily be a budget to the production. We would just work with what we have, and we found our own equipment free of charge. We found our own transportation free of charge, and we also worked together as a crew to sort of buffer any sort of problems. And because the fact that we were working during the month of Ramadan, most of our shooting was month of Ramadan, we didn't really necessarily to worry about food most of the time, because the crew was very kind to like, accommodate the other crew in the Muslim crews in the group during that month. Also, I work with conducting logistics, figuring out where and when, what to do, where to go, finding the location, giving out information, constantly reminding people and about where and when the shoots are, what equipment to bring, what sort of limitations we will face. In doing so as well, we did, me and our camera person Trisha, we worked very closely in the pre-production phase to conduct quite a few recce's. So what we did was we took the time to go to the location, look around, gauge the lighting amount. This allowed Trisha to sort of figure out where and what the best angles to be, and also this allowed me to talk to a lot of the interviewees to a lot of the refugees there, finding opportunities, building up as many possible connections with the refugees and the interviewer and interviewee as well. Sorry. Also, it helped me really well a lot when I wanted to design the proposal, because then I had an idea of how to work with what information I had at the time. Then finally, the most important part was doing all of this in the pre-production, where I went out, where I searched for, talk to the interviewee. I was allowed to vet the subject, because one of the key concerns we had was that the subject himself would not necessarily be worth doing, because we were planning to do a single subject, multi-camera production, and if the subject was bad, or if its information was not good, or if it wasn't factual enough, or did not necessarily have enough backing, then the documentary would fail. So by doing this, I got to know the subject, I got to know his problems, I learned a lot about him, enough to comfortably speak to him during the interviews. So next, the production point. One of the main things I did during the production was developing the idea with the director. Because one thing I think we made clear was that even in our proposal, it was necessarily a proposal. It was something we wanted to do, but it did not necessarily mean that we would achieve 100% of it. We had a basic idea of what we wanted to do, and during the shoot, we had to switch it up depending on the location. So I developed the idea with the director, found the shots that he sort of needed, and guided him where he needed to be. So I also went out opportunity searching, so like the shots you saw of the people who had tumors, broken legs, the refugees in dire conditions, these were all thanks to during the pre-production, where I found myself, thankfully found the refugees there opening up to me and telling me about their plans for the day. And in doing so, we found this opportunity to follow them out and live, see what they do in a day and experience what they have to experience. I also was the main interviewer for this documentary. I had a backup interviewer in the form of our editor, Nasrul. He helped me out where I needed to be. He just covered whatever I sort of missed, helped me clear out certain issues in terms of language maybe at times. Also, I planned most of the shoot days, maybe every shoot day, in that everything was pointed out clearly to everyone when the shoot was, what equipment we required, and what we need to do on this day. It's all the documentation detail. Also, I had to I was in charge of ensuring the safety of the crew at every angle, at every juncture. Because considering the fact that we were in a situation or in an environment where we did not have any control, I needed to make sure that whoever were to go out, that the person was fully aware and fully capable of doing the job at hand. Also, while during the shoot, I was me and the director Justin. We worked together on checking the shots. So we checked the shot before, pre-prepped everything when necessary and how in case of any problems, and we adapted according to the situation at hand. Because lighting came in a lot, and really explained to us before that the natural lighting was going to be one of the better ways of sort of working with it, because the ambience of the location. And in doing so, we sort of built up around that, and we were able to adapt once again to the situation. And at times, maybe we had to color correct it, but it was not that big of a deal. Finally, I had to ensure that all documentation was in order. I went out of my way to talk to all, because of my closeness with a lot of the subjects, I could get them to openly sign off on whatever that was required, even though that they were, when explaining to them and talking to them or whatever process that they were going through. So finally, during the post-production phase, I myself was I allowed my editors to work freely on this stage because they had the vision that when the director was working very closely with the editor, all I did primarily was I reviewed the footages as many times as I could. Every time the footage came out, I would go through it, I would provide feedback, I would review the edits as well. I would go through it and sort of check where and what sort of cuts might need changing and whatnot. And this was helpful because there were a lot of really nice cuts that we sort of found later on that we could use. I also signed off on the edits in that as a producer, I was given the opportunity to look at the edits and sort of work around them and see where and what, if I agreed to certain cuts or if I thought certain cuts needed more context or whether or not the things that were being said were taken out of context, because that's something that's very important in documentary filmmaking. I also compiled the documentation and checked finances. Again, when it came down to checking finances, it was all pretty much budgeted. So in terms of earnings, we had no budget and we didn't really have to worry much about it. And the documentation was all in order and has been so far nearly complete. So the important point here, I think, is on the methodology that I employed as a producer. Things I learned while producing as well. First off, what I learned was essentially that I needed to trust my crew members. I didn't force them to. All I did was guide them where where they needed to go and what to do. Found opportunities for them so that they could produce the best content that they could produce. I did not push them to shoot a specific shot when necessary. I gave them the freedom to do whatever shots they want, because that allowed them to grow in their own positions. In that, if I were to force them, then it would be my vision only. I like the fact that I had worked with a crew that gave me constant feedback on my work. I was open to advice from the crew as well, because they are the ones in the specialized situations. They could decide what's best for lighting, sound, and whatnot. And I agreed with them on nearly everything, went out wherever possible. I respected the boundaries of the interviewing, in that one of the things that we have now is, and what I'm trying to change in a way, is we agreed with the interviewee that the production, once completed, we would allow him to look at it and decide on whether or not he would like it to be published, because to him it is a sensitive topic and it is something that is important to him, and we have agreed with him. If he decides that it is not acceptable to be published in Malaysia, we will try to find other avenues to publish it with his consent. Also, in a lot of the documentary, you will see Mr. Rafiq show a lot of emotions. And that emotion, primary emotion, is his anger and his kindness in a sense. And these were all brought out by what in the method I employed learning through this process was I guided him to explain and answer questions in a way that helped him sort of expose himself openly to what we were trying to get from him. And it worked quite well, I think, for what we did today. So, in terms of style references, you might have seen this while watching the documentary. One was the medium close-up shots that you saw of all the refugees near the end, the montage that we had. That was taken with effect entirely from AJ Schnax's The Black Belt. The style was very endearing, and I felt that it would really help with understanding and humanizing the subjects that I had. Another one was taken from Striving to Survive, a documentary on Rohingya refugees as well. But our director, Justin, he saw this and he proposed an idea of actually using a sort of wide-angle shot to capture the environment in which Rafiq was sitting. That's how the interviews were primarily done. This was allowed, we let the environment be fluid, and I actually thought it turned out really well with cuts in from B-rolls to support the cuts to make it less boring over time. So overall, in the finished product, for what we did, I think in terms of pros, we have quite a few. Like we had an interesting interviewees. Like Dato' Hishamuddin provided a very factual sort of take on the whole thing, but he gave it in a fairly sort of simple, clear-cut sort of manner in which everyone could quite easily understand. And also Rafiq, who was quite, as you can see, emotionally charged, and he found himself to be very very attached to the situation and the topic, which gave us a lot of credit. So the documentary itself is agenda driven. That's something we say quite unapologetically, because it is from the point of view of one person. It's his agenda and his fight. It's not something we try to balance out necessarily by looking at other people, because one thing is the focus is entirely on Rafiq, and it's his views that matter the most to us in this. And he makes fairly salient points, even though at times he might sound a bit religiously driven. The audio quality was pretty good, I suppose, in this. In that, from the previous documentary that we did, this is a much better documentary in terms of audio quality. We had good A-roll shots and good B-roll shots. The story was engaging, I believe, from what we previewed to all our other people from around the university and the colleges. And we feel that the mise-en-scène that we set up for the entire documentary was fairly decent. And also the directing itself from Justin's side, I suppose it was pretty good. He found angles and he found opportunities where given to find and fill in the shots. However, on the other side, I suppose there are problems with video quality grading. When we shot this, we hadn't realized this, but over time there is some graining that you will see in the video. And the music budget, what I mean by this is, since we have no budget, we had literally no budget, we couldn't get good quality great sort of music that would fit into the documentary. We just worked with what we have from free sites. Camera stabilization, I suppose you could say, it was quite clearly a bit of an issue sometimes, because we were moving and shooting as well, and sometimes we did not have our equipment at hand. That's something we need to fix next time. We should bring a monopod along and ensure that every shot we take is more stabilized than ever. Also, at times it felt like there was a lack of angles. Like we might have just overused some angles too much with the one static shot, and then we have bits and pieces, but we should have added more in between. And I would say that something that needs to be cleaned up a bit more right now is our coloring, because at times it's rather inconsistent. Okay, so adding on to that, there were many issues as well. So we had, like I said before, the interviewee himself. He initially wasn't willing to be quite open to us, but I coaxed him into talking to us openly by agreeing to some of the standards that we wanted to do. And the location shoots were a bit problematic in terms of how we had the lighting shifting around, the audio shifting around. We had to compensate for a lot of this. B-rolls, we needed more. We legitimately needed more. Archive footage was used a lot because one thing is because the archive footage itself was really good, but I think we still needed more B-rolls overall, which as we should have looked up for this time around. Editing process was a bit tenuous in the sense that at times we sort of found difficulties in cutting some parts, but in the end I think we did a sort of decent job in the editing process. Equipment, again, as always, in logistics sometimes. Equipment was one of the few things, because we were running out. We were using equipment that was borrowed. At times, some equipment might have failed. There were times in this shoots for Mr. Dr. Hishamuddin where the audio suddenly killed itself, and we had to stop there and figure out a way around the problem. So these were things that we had problems with, but we still worked with. And also the time. One of the things with the interviewee as well was we only got him to talk to us because of his time and his scheduling, which was really hectic. He was running up and down and working on everything, so it was a bit tough sometimes. So in terms of the crew roles, I think overall the director did a pretty decent job. Justin Wong did a pretty decent job in directing the documentary. The camera work was pretty good. At times maybe shaky, but still we found ourselves quite happy with a lot of the shots and how we were inspired by different events and everything. The editor pushed himself to do something that was out of his bounds. Like, he had never really edited something this big or this serious before, and he was finding the feel for it. But thank God for the director and the producer, myself. We helped him out where he needed to, and he eventually helped finish the thing properly. The audio at times might have cut out, but Junting did a pretty decent job fixing up the audio in the and ensuring that the audio was clear and crisp the whole time. Lighting wise, we had used a lot of natural light, but for the Dato' Hishamuddin interview, we had to set up lighting and really was there at hand to really help us. But at times, maybe he needed to work on actually, I suppose it's because of his first time doing it, but he did quite a decent job at giving us information on what type of lighting we had and what type of shot we could cover. So finally, what I learned from all of this, from this whole experience, you have to be a good leader as a producer. It's not simply a job that should be taken lightly. It's not those misconceptions I talked about earlier. Those are pretty much false. Maybe it's a Hollywoodian sort of misconception to have those kind of qualities. But to be a good producer, you need to be a good leader. You need to listen to your crew all the time. You need to learn to adapt to situations, to work with what you have when you have it, finding opportunities for your crew, and making sure that you have the best social skills in the group. To be able to walk up to people, talk to them confidently, and get them to open up to you with what they need to talk about. They need to be really good in communication, talking to everyone, discussing what problems there might be, and fixing them, or finding solutions for them where possible. Also, you need to be the jack of all trades. But what I mean by jack of all trades is wearing many hats. So in this, I suppose I could say that I took the hat of the producer mainly, and then I worked as an assistant director, I worked as a production manager, I worked as a lead researcher, the fixer, the location scout, the sub editor, and even the interviewer. I was in every process of the entire production, and this was a very interesting sort of experience for me because I've never done producing. I've done directing before, and never done producing on this scale before. And I think I learned a lot about how to work through all these skills. And like Anna Hicks said at the end, the producer's role is to be an optimist, to bring the elements of the project and support them into a magical direction. And I think that's what we did at the end of the day with this production. We mixed everything together with the help of everyone, and we did a pretty decent job, I think. So thank you very much.
My only question is, can you tell me more about what was your original aim, means the target audience, and what you actually wanted to achieve? I want to hear more of that.
Okay, so the original aim was simply, this is how the process went with us. I'll just explain the process. When we had the idea of the refugees hub, we were looking for a topic within the refugees that we could do. We watched a lot of documentaries here and there. And when we came to this, the original idea was to find a single interviewee to actually tell us his point of view. Because we realized that the documentary, we only have a limited amount of time to do it. And from what I learned, working and talking with producers from Al Jazeera, some of my contacts, they explained to me that 10 minutes isn't very long for a multi-interviewee sort of documentary, for like having 4 or 5 people with different views and whatnot. What you need to do is focus. And the focus must be, basically the rule was, what I was told was, people doing something for a reason. And with Rafiq, that's what we sort of tried to do. We spoke to him and got him to talk about what his purposes are, what his reasons are for doing all of this, what motivates him. Even though not directly, it indirectly implies his religious beliefs, his past, his present, and what he expects in the future. So he told that whole story of his own. And in terms of target audience, I would say that the initial target audience was because we were looking for something more serious. We did not expect to sell it to 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds somewhere in high school. We were looking at anything about 20 to 50, around that area, where people become more enthused about issues in the in society itself, problems with society, problems with the country, and that's what we sort of produce at the end.
Because it is related to target audience.
Yeah.
So I wonder, now we are producing in different language. So do you think your target audience will be met that you want to achieve?
Yeah,
because
okay.
It becomes a limited market now.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, so in terms of language, yes. So what happened here is, initially the idea was to use English as the primary language of communication with the interviewee. However, like I said before, we need to adapt to the situation. When I spoke to him initially, he was more comfortable in doing it in Malay. yes, the overall market might have been smaller for us, but the fact of the matter is there are subtitles, but the thing is also that if you were to show this in Malaysia, Malay is a very well-known, well-versed sort of language, and he speaks in a very simple sort of tone. He does not use big Malay words or anything, and it's comfortable for him to open up, and I wanted him to open up as much as he could. The market size might have cut down from English speakers to whatever, but overall, I think it still covers most of what we need to get from him. I don't think it limits necessarily how far we can get with him. We have the subtitles, we still have the interviewee there as well. He's giving what he wants to talk about openly, and that's the most important point in still.
So the next point I want to ask is, you already have this in mind, this A market
Yes.
in mind. What type of mood actually you are trying to produce, and have you actually, your final production, have you actually achieved the mood that you wanted to do?
Initially, I think in our proposal stages, we talked a lot about emotion. And one of the things we still strive to do at the end of it was we wanted to get as much emotion out as possible. And through guiding the interviewee, I got him to speak quite openly in anger, which is one of the main emotions that I sought to get from him about the issues at hand. We have, and eventually we moved towards something less mellow, where he's talked about his family, the feel-good sort of emotion. So we have a shift between the two. We don't have purely anger-based sort of documentary. It's got a past to it. It's different. It shifts over time. When he's talking about his past, he's talking about it in a way that he's reminiscing. He's sort of a bit sad about the whole situation. Then when he's talking about the present, he's talking about how he felt, how he feels about the whole situation. He's angry at the government. He's angry at the the politicians for inciting Buddhists to fight and hurt people. And he's talking about his family and how he's sort of he's happy with what he's doing. So there's a shift in that emotion. It's not just one constant emotion as we initially thought we wanted to do. Because this is, I think, a better way of sort of shooting it instead of working with something that's very monotonous in terms of emotions as well.
So, any part that actually you feel that is missing, that you didn't achieve what you aim?
I would say possibly, in my view, one part in particular that was very difficult to edit was the bits and pieces on the religion, when he speaks about religion. Because there is a lot of what he says in the interview and when we spoke to him, like his guiding factor against the religion. I wish I had more time to sit down with him and talk to him about this and get him to talk, interview him more about his views on religions and clarify it more. Because I think that needs a bit more sort of exposition, a bit more context for him to sort of bring it into the whole sort of story flow. That might be one of the main parts to it, and I feel that it's a bit disjointed sometimes. But overall, I think we sort of did a pretty decent job with the overall story flow from what we initially proposed.
Okay. My question is, how far actually your role as a producer reflect the final video just now in terms of technical wise?
Technical wise,
Especially, my question is especially on audio choice.
In terms of audio, I just repeat what I said before. One thing is we had to. I signed off on the audios for a number of reasons. In terms of music, especially, the music that we chose was to bring in the feel and the sort of emotion at the point itself. Some of it sounds a bit upbeat for some parts, yes, but the point is still there's this sort of this juxtaposition between the audio and the foreground. There is not much music in it. There's only 3 basic sort of audio cues that are used in the overall documentary, and I think that's enough because instead of drowning out the interviewee when he speaks or when Dato' Hisham speaks with long cues of really loud or really sort of emotional audio, that feels a bit more forced to try to bring out the emotions for the audience. by allowing the interviewees to speak openly about what they have and what they feel about it, I suppose it's a more authentic sort of feel that you get from it instead of trying to force someone. In terms of the audio quality, I think Junting did a what I did was with Junting, I sat down with him and I worked through what is the best sort of audio. I worked through whatever issues. So one of the issues with some of the equipment was we were getting a single mono output, which was very problematic for because the cabling, there was something wrong with the cabling. But Junting and I sat down and we worked through it, and we fixed the problem, and we gave it to the fix to our director just in case we could not fix it any further. There were points. It's a good thing too because later on we had the same problem again, and in post production we were able to fix the problem and fix the audio as well. I think the overall audio quality was pretty decent. Maybe at times a bit soft. Could be up to date, but in general, I think it's still audible and it's still fairly clear to the audience able to listen to it.
Okay. Comes to the final video again.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with the sound that you guys choose for certain part in the story, especially when you come to the for example the archive footage that you choose, and then some part like I still remember in one part there you just add on one footage, the environment, the scenery in the society, in the place, in the refugee. Yes, suddenly it's silent. There's an ambience sound, but it's not really help us to to attach to that moment. So are you really satisfied with that audio choice as a producer?
I would say that not necessarily, but in shifting between the shots, it sort of helps because of the text. You're not using the audio to cover up or mask the video itself, or it's just for the text. I suppose the edit could have been a bit better in the sense like we should have started the audio a bit earlier, a few seconds earlier, so that it flowed into it instead of just suddenly jumping into it after going to black. The other audio choices, I think they were decent, quite decent. The initial audio choice I think was really nice because it worked with the sort of montage we had with the thing, and the ending as well. It sort of gave you it brought out the emotion once again of the montage over the refugees in middle close-up shots. And I suppose with the middle sort of audio, I could use a bit of work. We could still edit it slightly more to fix the problem that you have highlighted.
Actually, throughout the video, yes, I get the message. But what I feel lacking in the video is actually the emotional touch of the refugees. I didn't feel that strong. That's my worry of the video. Actually, I wanted to be in the refugees situation. If I am in the refugees situation, I heard Rafi's voice clearly. He actually tried to help me. So I didn't get that strong enough. So I hope that it come out stronger.
I see. But in that sense, I mean, like I said, we could have used a lot more B-rolls. I think we need a lot more B-rolls for some of the stuff that we had because we relied a lot on the archive footages to work with it. But the archive footages we could, so it helped a lot. In terms of the feeling, the connection to the refugees, I feel like overall that is something that we tried to do and we sort of did quite okay. Because like I said, we previewed this to people around, we showed them and everything. They actually found it quite interesting and quite engaging. They actually felt for it and whatnot. And in that sense, yes, possibly we could have we could add in like bits and pieces to help with it, but the authentic feel to the whole thing with Rafiq talking about his emotions, his take on the situation, the cuts where we bring in the politicians to talk to argue against Rafiq, in that sense, those people that we showed this to, there were quite a few people we showed it to, they felt that it was pretty good. I think that it's something I feel that we could do better in terms of emotion. We will try to do better, but at this point, we have produced this, and I think people have found it quite interesting overall as a documentary to watch.
Thank you, Khalid.
Very good afternoon to my lecturers, and today I'll be presenting my roles as a director, a camera operator, and an assistant editor on Seeking Refuge, a documentary. So, Seeking Refuge is a 10-minute documentary that explores the difficulties and the sufferings that Rohingya refugees faces in Malaysia. But their story will be brought to perspective through Rafiq Ismail's, a refugee community coordinator's perspective. So, initially, the original pitch itself, we wanted to focus on Rafiq Ismail as a personality profile. But after conducting the pre-interview and actual interview, we thought, I personally discussed with the producer to change up the direction of the documentary from the original pitch. So what we wanted to do is we show the topical issue itself, the problems with refugees in Malaysia through Rafiq's perspective. So that was the direction that we changed it to. So exposition, we have the opening montage, and then we open up with archival footages that explain the conflict that happened in Myanmar. And then the rising action would be Rafiq's backstory as a refugee. So this part would be the more emotional side, where he explains the gruesome details about the conflicts that happened in Myanmar and how he escaped from the conflict zone to Malaysia. And then it also mentioned why the conflict happened, the political side of the conflict, the political side of the problems and whatnot. And then the climax part would be when Rafiq is explaining about the sufferings and difficulties of the refugees in Malaysia. Following action, refugees' obliviousness towards the refugee status in Malaysia, their uneducatedness, and since they don't go to school and they don't have proper education, so they are very naive about being a refugee in Malaysia. And then the documentary will resolve as Rafiq explained about his own personal sacrifices that he has done to help out the refugees in Malaysia. So in this production, I am the director, I am the camera operator, and also assistant editor. During the pre-production, I was in charge of deciding the general direction of the documentary. I also went to recce the location, one of the locations, and plan out the shots that we want to take, what kind of shots we want to take during the interview and during the bureau shots, and also the visual treatment. So the general concept of the documentary that we have produced is space. I thought a lot about the visuals and the kinds of visuals we want to have in the documentary, which is wide-angle compositions that would allow audiences to breathe properly and to digest properly. Since the topic that we have is very complex, it's very hard to understand sometimes for a certain group of people. So we thought that having space, having breathing space in terms of composition, in terms of transitions, would be a good pacing for the documentary, since they will have more time to digest. And then during the production, of course, as a director, I directed what kind of shots I want. I briefed properly the camera operator, what kind of shots I want during the interview shoots, during the bureau shoots, and also before any interviews, I made sure that the audio person actually got the microphone frequency right, and it's not too sensitive and whatnot. Background noise is not too heavy and not too noisy. And then during the production, I manned the master cam, whereas the other camera operator, she handled the alternate angles and whatnot. So I'll be stationed in the camera with the tripod, and Trisha, another camera operator, she handled the alternate angles cam with a monopod. So she could go around and take multiple angles so we can cover the jump cuts. So jump cuts is also one of the things that I personally was really afraid because I didn't want the interview shots to be very jumpy when editing. So I kept that in mind. So we took a lot of views, we took a lot of alternate angles so that we can cover our jump cuts if needed. Even the interview shot itself, we were thinking about space, how to leave some space, you know, how do we compose the shot so that there's breathing space allowed. So we decided that Rafiq should sit down on the floor and a wide shot as opposed to traditional interview shots. Because traditionally interview shots are normally like medium close-up shots. So we wanted to change things around this time, so we went with a wide shot instead. Some of the shots are inspired by one of the documentaries that we have researched on. It's called Striving to Survive for Rohingya Refugees in Malaysia. It's one of the recent documentaries produced by a local production house, the Spaceman. And also the B-roll shots were kind of inspired by The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, because I really liked the cinematography of Walter Mitty. The shots there was, it has breathing space, it has dynamics and whatnot. So these are some of the shots that I was inspired to do. Like the first one, that's the interview shot. As you can see, you know, he's sitting down, there's space at the right, and it's not too close out and whatnot. And some of the B-roll shots, you know, those are wide angle shots and whatnot. So, you know, there's more dynamic, there's more space for breathing. And then we come to post-production. So what we did was that we split into two. I was the assistant editor, and we have another guy who is the main editor. So of course I briefed the main editor about the story structure, how I want to structure the story and how I want the story flow to be. So what he did was he stitched out the story, he stitched out the main footages and whatnot, and I will be at the side finding archival footages, I will be finding suitable bureaus, naming and rating all the suitable bureaus that would be appropriate to suit, you know, each section of the story and whatnot, each section of the documentary. And also I was in charge of color grading and doing the subtitles. So one of the things that I was really concerned is that I want our documentary to be credible. I want people to think that our documentary is a credible piece of work. So we made sure that all archival footages are properly cited with all the sources, where we got our stills from and where we got our archive footages from. And also, like what I said earlier, we kept in mind the pacing of the video, make sure that, you know, after each story there's a proper transition, a proper flow to another section, so that, you know, it doesn't look so jarring and people have more time to digest whatever Rafiq or anybody said in the previous story. And also our initial pitch for the tone, pace and style was that we wanted to have a dark tone and moody atmosphere. So that was when color grading comes in. I didn't try to make it look too cinematic because I wanted the documentary to look as real as possible. But however, I wanted to, you know, stick true to our initial pitch. So I, you know, increase the contrast a bit and then decrease the brightness and whatnot. Color tone, I messed around with the color tone and made it bluish instead of warm. So the next part would be, I personally think that Seeking Refuge has some flaws to it. It has some weaknesses that I admit. First, the falling action was slightly too steep. There was, between the climax part and the resolution part, it seemed a bit too fast to reach the conclusion. I wish we would have, you know, reevaluated that. And then one of the feedbacks that the lecturers gave during the rough cut was the clarity of the story flow. There wasn't enough clarity towards what each section is about. So what we did towards that was we summarized the thing again. We only dragged the key points of each interview, each sentences, so that it doesn't look sound too draggy and whatnot. And then one of the strengths, I think, for the documentary is that we actually control the pacing quite well, in my opinion. And also, I personally think that it's overall a good and organized production. And so far, through this documentary, what I've personally learned is that because this is my first time directing, so I don't really have that much experience directing. So previous semesters, I was always the camera guy, the editor. So now I took up the role of a director, and I sort of know how a director should act, and I developed some new skills here and there. And yeah, compared to the previous semester, I think that this time around documentary, the pacing is really controlled, and I feel like our team did a great job. Okay, yeah, that's it.
Okay, first question.
Yeah.
How you feel that in your direction, in your production, your aim met with your producer's aim?
How do I make sure that my aim meets with the producer's aim? Personally, I think it's a lot of communication. There needs to be a lot of going back and forth to make sure that both of us, actually not only the both of us, that the whole team is on the same page and the whole team is on the same direction. So when they are actually executing the production, they will be in this, they will have the same vision as what the producer has and what I have. So what I did was I briefed him every time before the shoot. Like I wanted to have this kind of shot, I wanted to have this kind of direction to my story structure, and I will ask of his approval whether he is okay with it and whether it's in line with his vision or not. So if he's okay with it, then I'll proceed, and if he's not okay with it, I'll maybe tweak a little bit and whatnot, and see how else can I compromise to meet with his aims.
Okay, can you elaborate more, because I don't know how much your aim and producer's aim regarding target audience and all those things?
Okay, in terms of target audience, okay,
Actually, what you see and the producers see, what the target audience or everything, did they actually met, or have you improved on that or something like that?
okay,
To make it much more bigger, much more clearer, something like that, explain it more.
okay. Initially, the producers aim in terms of target audience, in terms of the how should we target our audience, was that he said we should target everybody, instead of just a certain group and whatnot. But I personally thought that maybe we should, because it's a lot of work. It's very hard to please everybody. So it's better to have a single aim, a specific and niche target audience, so that we can work around with that instead of going just throwing everything in and trying to please everybody.
So what is your niche market?
I personally think that the documentary can be targeted towards the younger audiences, because it's something that's easy to digest, and it's not that complex it's not complex enough that young people wouldn't understand. And because this issue is an underlying issue that has been going on for years in Malaysia, and it doesn't seem that a lot of people know about it. So I feel like the most important part is to inform the younger audiences, so that they could be also talking about the issue as well, instead of just the adults and whatnot.
Okay, in your production, there are two languages,
Yeah.
Bahasa and English.
Yeah.
Okay, do you think that because it's done in Bahasa, so do you think that these two conflicting languages that put together will affect the audience understanding?
Maybe okay. Okay. Personally, I think that we wanted it to be in Bahasa Malaysia in the first place was because Rafiq was more comfortable in answering in PM, and we tried interviewing him in English, but he wasn't that comfortable, and he tended to stutter a lot when he was speaking in English. So during the interview, we tried changing it to PM, and it went smoother. And even when the producer was interviewing him, he felt more comfortable, and he felt more open up to the producers and the team. So his answers were more honest and more authentic or not. And in terms of the problem with being lost in translation, we tried to keep it as close to as the translation as possible. Because after the interview, we did a transcription. We did transcription for every interview footages, and after we did the first transcription was in BM, and then we slowly translated into English. So I think that in terms of audience digestibility, if it were to be in English, audiences would definitely understand better, of course. But I feel that it wouldn't be as real when it's in BM. So yeah, I feel that it would be better. It would be best if the subject is speaking in his or her own mother tongue.
Okay, since you are also the editor as well as cameraman, just now you talk on the points, breathing space. Okay, because you only focus on camera angles and breathing space.
Yeah, and also transitions.
Yeah. So, because breathing space actually can be during editing. So I felt that in your editing, breathing space is not enough.
Okay.
Because that helps us to actually don't rush the topic. So I feel that there is lacking of breathing space in your editing. So I think if you do again, future when you talk about space, breathing space in editing is compulsory. Okay. Then because the other thing is also you said there's a lack of emotions. So if you want to bring emotions, how do you think you want to create an emotion?
Okay.
Like what you stated.
Yeah. That I personally think that was one of the weaknesses of our documentary. Of course, we received feedback from you guys yesterday, which I do agree. To have more emotions, maybe we can play around with the sound, have more sound effects. When Rafiq is talking about the conflicts, the background noise is too bland. There's no emotional roller coaster and whatnot. So maybe we can put in some gunfire sound or baby crying sound. Those kind of little subtle sound effects that would invoke some sort of emotions to the audiences.
So that's why, and that is actually breathing space in the day. Those are actually the moments of emotion. Actually, I think so. That's why it's a bit lacking in your edit. Okay, as a director, you defocus on those areas. I think maybe it's time constraint that maybe can't direct it. The other thing is I didn't hear much about you as a director and the team. Talk more about how you and the team, because you are the director, you are supposed to be the boss of the team.
First of all, I don't really think I'm the boss of the team. More like the producer is the boss of the team, and I am just there to help him plan out the visual elements and make sure that the visual elements is intact with whatever we pitched in the beginning and what the producer wanted from the very beginning itself. So to be honest, as a director this time around, I personally felt that the producer had more say than the director, but I think my part came in when during the production phase and the post-production phase. Not that much of pre-production. Production phase wise, the producer, I tried to make sure that I brief everybody properly, and then make sure that everybody knows what's going on and knows what's up with the production, and make sure that there's no lack of equipment, lack of they don't come late to set and whatnot, those kind of stuff. I think that I take up the role as a production manager also, like in the production phase, in terms of contacting all the team members so that they don't wake up late or not. So yeah.
What about creating moods, because it's part of your work?
Sorry.
creating moods, creating lighting, those are things to be part of it.
Yeah. Like what I said earlier, like during the production phase, of course I briefed the lighting guy what kind of lighting I wanted during this specific interview shot. We like for example the judge shot, it was too dark. It was too dark at the home, so we managed to move around. I managed to discuss with the Willie, the lighting guy, on how to move around the set, how to move around the sofa to get the table lamp at the side of the judge's face, and then we also have a reflector that was. We had an LED light that was shining on the reflector, so the other half of the face of the judge can be seen as well. So like the audio guy, the sound guy, the camera, Trisha would also give me some suggestions on how to create the mood better and how to produce a better atmosphere, a better tone and whatnot. And especially the audio guy, because I personally know nothing about audio. I have no knowledge about frequency or whatever, decibels and whatnot. Junte, our audio guy, was quite knowledgeable on that part. He really did his research on that part. He actually told me how the sensitivity of the microphone works and whatnot, and he set up all the cameras in terms of the audio and whatnot. So I think it's a mutual benefit. Yeah.
What about, well, I didn't hear from you, what about cultural and ethical issues in the program? How do you think that could actually
whether you achieve that elements in terms of the cultural.
Is it in terms of our content also?
Yes, the content as a director.
Cultural and ethical issues.
Okay. Initially, what we had in mind, because that recently there's a lot of stereotype regarding the Muslims, regarding Islam as a religion, on how it's a terrorizing religion and whatnot. So we wanted to change the perception of people towards Islam and towards the Muslim communities. So I think that our documentary has raised a great awareness, has raised great cultural awareness, ethical awareness towards how to treat refugees in Malaysia and how a refugee should be treated in any country, in any humane, in any developed country. So I feel like our aim, we hope that we attempt to change the perception of people, not only in Malaysia but also people around the world, if the video is able to being circulated globally. So yeah, changing perception was the main.
Actually, all my questions will be asked by Cyrus, but yeah, my important question is more on the lack of emotion. Cyrus already asked it, and also the space that you talked about just now, because I didn't see the space, the technique that you use enhance the emotion, but you already explained just now, and how you tackle it, since you already, when you analyze the final video, you didn't see the emotion there. So, but because of this technique, even the technique like what you explained just now, the space kind of thing, the breathing space and all that, try to, why you choose it, because you want to give more brief, more clear understanding for those who are really understand this serious matter, but actually you lack in terms of emotion. So I just want to ask you about how you're going to tackle it. Cyrus already asked the whole thing just now, and also the cultural value. So yeah,
one more thing, I don't know whether you agree with the producer regarding the music.
Yes,
the producer mentioned that you wanted 2 pieces of music. So as a director, do you feel that that 3 pieces of music is enough to drive your.
Are you satisfied with the
Okay,
music?
to be honest, it was actually my idea to have minimal background music. I didn't want the documentary to be too flashy and to be overcrowded with unnecessary background music. I really wanted to focus on the ambient sound, to focus on the environmental sound. So in that sense, I agree with my producer on the selection of the music. And I am very aware that our audio is inconsistent. Some of the levels are not consistent. It's very jarring to hear sometimes. So that is one of the things that we will be editing, before submission and whatnot. And yes, like the transition footage, the ambient sound was not enough. It was too soft, and people. I got a lot of feedback from people that they can't really notice or hear the environmental sound of those transitional footages. So maybe if we made it more consistent, and it would be less jarring. So I think 3 pieces of music would be sufficient. That's what I think.
Just to wrap up,
Yep.
how do you feel the overall production? Just to wrap up, how do you feel about the whole production as well as the whole process?
Yes.
Okay. As a director, during the production phase, during the post-production phase, of course, I personally felt that the editor, the producer, and director did most of the work. So like the audio guy, the lighting guy, and the camera operator only handled sort of the pre-production and also the production phase. So right after the production phase, there was no communication between the team, between the lighting guy, between the audio guy, between the camera operator with the director and editor as well. So what I hope to change how the production works is that I hope that they would care more about the production and actually take the initiative to ask me how the editing is going and what are their thoughts on it, because I only receive their feedback when I finish editing. When I finish, I hope there's more communication, and I hope that I also took more initiative to ask them, about their opinion on the rough cut, on the first cut, on the second cut, and whatnot. But other than that, overall, I think it's a pretty well prepared and well organized production. The producer did his research. The producer and our camera operator was also the assistant producer, sort of. They managed the talent well. They treated the talents with respect and whatnot, with good ethics and whatnot. So I personally think that it's a very well planned production. Right.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Trisha, and today I'm going to be presenting documentary 2, MAC307. And my role in this production is as a camera operator and also the assistant producer. So as we move on to this film production, which we titled it as Seeking Refuge, we will talk about this production will be on performative documentary, whereby it will seek on bringing out the emotional value of the people inside, and also to bring out the audience emotional value. So as one of the performative documentary, this is one of the example, which is Striving to Survive, Rohingya, which was filmed in Malaysia, and it's done locally here in Malaysia, and it's a very good documentary to refer to for our documentary. So as we move on to the next slide, my role as a camera operator and also the assistant producer. In terms of camera operator, I deal with the technical aspects, the shot compositions, equipments, and to accommodate according to the environment. And also as an assistant producer, I deal with documentation and also to ensure the roles of each and every members, helping the producer and also to finalize the documentation as well. In terms of technical aspect, we did not use a lot of lightings for our lighting equipments, but more of the natural lightings. And shot composition is more of like we use rule of thirds and also certain spacing between the subject and also close-up shots. So for the next slide here, we can see the equipments that we actually use. That's the Manfrotto, and that's the mic that we use, and also the boom mic. So we have a lot of differences in our cameras as well. So you definitely see a lot of difference in terms of lightings when we have finalized the edit. So in this shot, you can see we did a lot of shots of Ustad Rafiq, and he's the center subject here. And then as we move on, we have another one which we put in together children for more emotional factors. And also here we will use, we play with angles such as the foreground and also the background. And then as for this shot, it's more, we focus on one subject, we go close using the 50mm lens. So to get the bokeh effects. And this is one of the shots that you will see at the end of the production, whereby this was not manipulated in any case, so this subject itself did this action on her own. So to bring out more emotional factors, we use her as the ending part of the final edit cut. And then for the gains and complications that I've gone through for this production is mainly of, again, to broaden my knowledge in terms of the refugees of the Rohingyas. I did not know much about them, and through this filming I get to know more about the Rohingyas, what are the things that they have went through, and also some new experiences, and also the communication factors. We have a lot of boundaries, like in terms of language, so it's a bit difficult for us to film sometimes when we can't communicate with them, but with that brings out the factor of that film, because you can't communicate, but that's the best way of communicating is through body language. So that's what we have shown throughout the filming as well, and also the skill sets that I've gained, like camera operating. I did not know much on certain things, so I get to learn it from my director, and cultural acceptance, and also grouping and individual responsibilities. So in terms of technical area, you can see there are some parts where you can see lightings and also lighting differences, and also the camera aspect, the shutter speed in terms of the Ustad Rafiq's part. There was a bit of the problem with the shutter speed. I didn't adjust it. So those are the areas that I've done my mistake in. So that's what I learned through this, to not do that mistake again. And also in group communications, sometimes there are certain areas where group communication can be a bit misleading and everything, because between the group members, maybe like certain equipments are not brought during filming and stuff. And then the weather condition was a bit difficult sometimes because we have harsh lightings during production, and also stabilizing shot as mentioned before, and visualization in terms of group members between the director, me, and also the producer. Sometimes we envision different things, so those might be the complications and also the lightings. And that will be the end as the references, and that will be the end of my presentation. Thank you.
My first question is actually because the previous presentation by your director, Jeffrey Wong, he mentioned about the space technique, especially for the whole shot composition and all that. Okay, and then he mentioned about it's actually come up because try to enhance the emotion value in the story itself. That's why he suggested for you as a cameraman to use more space technique. Okay, as a cameraman, how actually you feel that technique able to enhance the emotion value, like what your director suggests to the whole story?
I wasn't really aware of the spacing, so I actually did more close-ups compared to giving more space towards the subjects. But most of the shots that were used were mostly shots that were given more spacing, like compared to director. So close-up shots were very limited in the film as well. That's one of the things that we didn't put in more as a shot. So I wasn't, because of the fact that I wasn't aware of it, so I think that's why the final cut was different compared to what I've seen.
So did you agree with your director to add more on the space technique rather than a close-up shot and all that? Did you agree with that kind of shot, or did you suggest anything to your to your director during the shooting?
I did mention that it would be better if I do more close-up shots to him and also other things. We were alright with it, but it's just that it's not to say we didn't agree or anything. It's more of I would rather listen to the director because I think that he has more experience than me, so that's why I went along with his idea. But there are certain disagreements when it comes to certain shots sometimes to bring out the emotional value of it. So,
one more thing, when you said about you gained something from the whole project, which is I did realize that you put individual responsibilities. That's what you gain from the whole project. But the thing is, I want to hear a more detailed explanation. What do you mean by individual responsibility that you gain?
In terms of individual responsibilities, I've gotten more to learn how to actually. When it comes to during the filming, there was a lot of times all of us were separated to film different scenes. So we have to understand each other that, okay, these are the shots that we are going to get. So we have this certain understanding when it comes to individual responsibility. So director will give me certain instructions, so I'll go and get accordingly to. That's why I learned that during production, you can't always be with the director. You have to go out on your own to actually get the shots, because sometimes there are shots that you can't get being in the group itself. You have to separate yourself among the group. So yeah, that's why I learned.
Based on the final video that you showed us today, do you agree with all the shot chosen by your director and the editor? Did you agree, or there's anything that you want to highlight or add on to that final video? Because now we talk about your individual responsibility as a cameraman, did you agree with all the shots chosen?
There are definitely a lot more B-rolls that could be inserted in the film itself, in the documentary.
For example, in which scene?
Example would be probably in Ustad's case, and also some of the children. I actually did some close-up shots for them. They were not put inside. I did not really actually question them because usually I try not to involve myself too much in the post-production because I actually I trust the director and also the editor to know what they are supposed to do. So pretty much I was a bit disappointed that certain shots that could bring out more emotional values that are not inserted inside, but I think overall I'm still satisfied with how the documentary came out.
Actually, the question is still the same. Because director talk about space framing and all of those. So, in your words, how actually is in your words, your what do you call it, your feelings or opinion, how should performative documentary should be? Give us some example.
like based in my opinion, my own words, like Mrs. Harris mentioned just now, I think in terms of performative filming documentary, most of the time from what I've seen on documentaries, I've seen a lot of close-up shots, a lot of shots of children, depending on the matters, on the cases whereby the situation itself, they were suffering during the situation, that's filmed on camera. Those are the shots that I was envisioning to get when I'm filming during the production.
So do you think that the complete production had those type of shots?
To be honest, I felt like there are certain things that was lacking in the shots. I felt like, even though I felt like there are shots that actually brought out the emotional value, but most of the shots were pretty much just very static, just what it is. It didn't bring out more value, and also maybe I felt like it needed more emotional value to be brought out. Like something was still missing. I couldn't, during production, I couldn't really get it out. That was one of the mistakes that I think I went through.
Because the thing that we talk about performative, we talk about emotional values. So I still feel that they are lacking in the film. So that's why from your point of view as a cameraman, I need you to actually bring up exactly samples. Like, for example, just yes, you mentioned about those shots children are using, but can you explain a bit more? How do you visualize it? I want it to be visual form. How do you visualize that shot should be? It's just not just telling me, visualize, describe the visual output of that shot is supposed to look like. Can connect the action, cannot be lighting, cannot be anything, but just help us to understand from your point of view as a cameraman, how should that shot should be to bring out the emotional value, which is you mentioned, which is a performative documentary.
So in terms of the children shots mainly that was done, Ustaz Rafiq mentioned a lot about the fact that this people, the Rohingya people, they were suffering, and to put children in it, to show that the Rohingyas also have kids that are around their age, from 3 to 10, older, younger. So these children were born in Malaysia, and they are having the same issue as their parents as well. They are not, even though they are born in Malaysia, they are not they were not spared by the Malaysian government. So that's one of the things I envision of these children, and hopefully that we will actually give this concept towards it. So that's one of the very reasons why I use a lot of children shot, and also the fact that children can be seen as innocent. So for them to be involved in this conflict is something. It's not to say a very great deal, but it's something that will hit your heart as well, in my aspect.
Okay, the other questions that I want to highlight is actually you as a cameraman, from the eye of the camera, are you aware of the cultural or ethical issues that should be involved in the filming?
Because when you're a camera operator, once in a while you get too involved in this filming itself. You definitely do not, you are not aware of certain situation. But in this production itself, I was quite aware of the fact that they were actually suffering, very much suffering from this situation. They needed a lot of attention and help, and also there were things that through the lens itself, like that I realized that when I film this, I won't be able to help them in many matters, and it's just for basically that's how I feel it is.
Alright, I think that's it, Trisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Mr.
Alright.
Cyrus.
Hello, guys and girls. My name is Willie here. Today I'm going to explain my role as a lighting man in the video production of Seeking Refugee. My role consists of two technical terms. Wait, not technical. My role consists of two jobs. The first is the technical advice, and second is the communication between me, camera operator, director, and the producer. It was critical for me to communicate with the producer and the director in the sense we can come up with the best lighting effect to apply into the video documentation. And the item for us to use, since we are mostly doing outdoor shots and most likely there are very less situations for studio use, therefore my equipment will be limited to a reflector and a portable LED light. Following is a screenshot of the B-rolls. And in the sense that you can see the lighting is basically quite blurry in this B-roll. The most important thing about it is to bring out the contrast between the reality in the refugee camp and the reality in Malaysia region of what they are facing and the difference in between their position. Okay, this is the first interview shot with Ustad Hafiz. As you can see, there is only one light. The technique that I was using actually is a three-point lightning. This is the key light, and supposedly behind there is a backlight and there is another field light there. But to bring out shadow and contrast of the dark feeling of reality they are facing, therefore I take out the field light to give out shadow. They're showing that the Ustad Hafiz struggled in facing in the reality when he was confronted with the refugees problem and his effort in making a better picture, because you can see that the light is basically the source of the sunlight, which gives a bit brighter and a warmer feeling. Next. In contrast to the judge, which is a local Malays, the situation is the contrast of the background lighting, where Ustad is a bit darker, where the judge house is a bit warmer, and in a sense that it gives out that the difference they are facing. One from refugee perspective, the second is from perspective of a local, a well-reached local, in the sense that regarding the situation of the refugee camp. In this production file, there's three things that I would highlight what we have learned and what we have facing off. Communication as in duct is the most important part of the whole video production, where we have to communicate between me, the camera operator, the director, and the producer. We each come to the consensus that the theme that we want is actually dark and warmer tone. As we can see from here, dark one is the Ustad Hafiz and warmer tone for Josh, in a sense to bring out the difference. And another thing is to bring out the visual, the feeling of this is similar to what we are facing every day. Therefore, we use whatever we use for the key light is basically the sunlight. The most basic source of lightning that found is sunlight. You can see that the sunlight is here. First, second, as a backlight filling up behind, separating the background with reflector, and there's another field light because the shadow is too much for Judge, because we want to portray that Judge is not that hard. The hardship that Judge is facing is not similar to the contrast with the Ustad Hafiz. Therefore, minimum shadow. And second thing we have learned is my method as using the lightning in 3-point control in the Ustad Hafiz how, because of certain circumstances we doesn't have that much of equipment, therefore I have to improvise certain time. And the third thing that I want to say is adaptation is the crucial thing that I have to learn, because as I said before, equipment is not that much. There's only two, and then there's problems with stand. We doesn't have lightning stand, so I have to, thanks to our director, we will come up with the idea of duct taping the lightning portable lightning kit box to a simple camera stand. You just have to improvise a lot because, and especially in the positioning, because the difference, sometimes the sunlight, this is actually in the just it's the second position we have tried. The first position is too much lighting coming from the left hand side, and it's the problem also of the back lighting. Therefore, you cannot have the feeling that we wanted, in the sense that therefore we have to position a lot, especially for the judge. But because the problem we are facing Ustad is different case. And in certain B-roll, because of physical, there's only one lightning man, then there's two camera operator. I have to focus on mainly the first camera operator to understand what is the communicate and understand that what is the lightning that we wanted in as a team now. And then I leave another second camera operator, which is our director Justin, because we have already communicated, so he have a better, we have a common understanding of what we wanted. Okay? According to that, as this is the presentation, that's all for my presentation of my role in the production. It's open for question time.
Okay. My question is, why soft approach or lighting?
Soft approach is there's two elements. The first will be the idea of the video production. We want a softer tone and the contrast. It's not actually softer tone in the sense that softer tone is basically for the judge. And actually we use minimal light in Ustad Hafiz to show the contrast between the characters, as I said before. And the second element is very basically, it does not have that equipment, that much of the equipment in our hand to create that effect. But thanks to our team also, there's minimal requirement for lighting.
I think as a lighting man, you must know the very basic of why do we do, when before you do the production, why do we do this production in a soft approach? The original concept behind the story must be very, very clear. So it's not limitation of equipment that you should talk about. You should understand why should this production done in a soft approach. Yes, there are contrasts between the two lighting that you mentioned about, but you still got to know why should this production done in a soft approach. So that isn't bring up the video to me.
Okay, to add on to that, before this presentation, there's another presentation when we talk about dark tone and warmer tone and how to create shader and whatnot. And during that, we actually discussed with the producer and the director in the softer tone that we wanted. Actually, the production, as you can see in the video, the tone is different for each character. And in the most case, refugee have a more dark approach, more dimming light. Just can you show the shadow is different in contrast to the interview, because hero is also important in that sense that to bring out each difficulty and they're facing in their reality. You can see that the overall lighting effect is different. It's actually on top. It's actually near in the background and the lighting is actually from top. So therefore, when we talk about soft tone, it's actually not soft tone that we really want. We want a tone for each character to bring out the difference in their character sense and what the difficulty they are facing. Because the team is seeking refugee, we are talking about difficulty of refugee facing in their alone quest during the Malaysia time. This is what we wanted to highlight. The darker tone and the warmer tone is the main theme that we want to. It's the main highlight, and we in each character we have different lightning effect to bring out their story. In a sense, it's a puzzle. It's the small focus in the big picture. And to add on, I'm going to talk about when we say about lightning. Actually, it was quite crucial because as camera operator, he construct a framework. The lighting effects is more on makeup. A good makeup will show you what's the story about and what's the highlight about. And a bad makeup is just a bit of not just to expose themselves in their shortcoming. For the question. Okay, one more time. You already still
I still didn't get your answer.
Okay.
Anyway, your answer is not very clear to me. Because and also you mentioned about 3-point lighting.
Yep.
And then just now you mentioned about the light,
Oh.
harsh and non-harsh and all those things,
Yep.
so that there is some complication.
For complication, the 3-point lighting is basically for the interview shot. There's not limitation to the character because below depending on the situation. Therefore, I just now I thought about adaptation. We have to adapt to the situation.
So you see, there are, in lighting is concerned, there are also soft approach.
Yes.
Which is soft tone approach.
Yes.
There are also 3-point lighting. So that's why in your presentation you actually often explain throughout very clearly. That's why I asked you this question. Why soft tone? Now you say harsh tone and all this thing. So another question I want you to explain a bit more is these 2 interviews that you created, the 2 contrast interviews. What's the reason behind? What is the reason behind of these 2 interviews? The 2 contrasts. What is actually your reason behind creating these 2?
The interview.
Between the judge and
The-
because you mentioned about to develop the contrast just now, right? So what's the reason?
Their position in the position. I mean, in the crest. Because from the outside office view, we actually see that using a darker tone, right? As you can see just now in the picture, you can see that the crest they are facing at the difficult time. This is what we want to highlight the difficult time because Ustaz Hafiz is actually for people coming into the Malaysia during when he was young, and then his struggle. It's not easy for him to struggle from there's no IC for him, I guess so, because this is the struggle of a man coming from other country in his quest to here. Therefore, the reality he's facing is different from the Josh in the sense that he have the advantage of a local. In a sense, he is living a comfortable life. But Ustaz is fighting for his comfortable life where one is already achieving. Therefore, resulting in the warmer tone, as they say in the Josh picture, and the Ustaz Hafiz. The contract is to bring up the position in society status. As you can see in the background, it's quite clear in the sense that they are coming from 2 backgrounds. This is the main colossal, and the story behind this is to highlight that the differences between these 2. And we say what contrast, the differences in ideology. Yes, in the same approach they wanted for the recognition of the refugee in Malaysia. That is the main concern. But we are looking at 2 approaches. One was during first hand in the field, facing the refugee problem every day, and one is standing on from a 3rd-person view in a comfortable space, looking at the event as saying that yeah, we should help him. You can see the difference of the idea coming from there is one is in the field, there's one behind. This answer your question.
Okay. Most of the team members mentioned about emotional values, but your presentation didn't mention anything about emotional values.
It may because I see that emotional value is critical in a sense that it applies to them to bring out the emotion. We are talking about resonance between the viewer and the character in the video production. We want to talk about how they feel towards it and how the characters feel about it. For me, emotional is shown through what they are facing in a sense. Therefore, coming back to the warmer tone. Warmer tone brings out the feeling of reality, nature. Because I use a lot of sunlight, small approach to the natural lighting. The emotion is, this is happening every day, and emotion of the character is different from the B-rolls in the montage. Every character have different emotion value.
So, do you feel that the lighting that you create for this 2 person able to create emotion value to it?
Yes, as we can see that the emotion value is determined in the lighting effect is the key point lighting. Actually, as we can see that as I said before, the struggle itself, and the point is the emotion value in the lighting effect is to bring out the differences, as again I will say again, the differences. It's not about these two persons. Actually, in B-roll you can see, in the character they have different language because the emotion they are facing. In the Ustad Hafiz, you can see there's less shadow because he already achieved a point that he are now able to help people that are still inside this problem. You can see there's a failure there with the shadow because they are still facing this kind of problem. With lightning can be effect to bring out the emotion of the struggle of the person in the production whole production documentary. Does that answer the question?
Okay. Actually, very last question is actually
Yes.
the overall production, because in overall production is consists of your main film, which is the interviews, plus the B-rolls.
Yes.
So, do you think the B-rolls is good enough from your lighting point of view? Gives you the overall feel of what you all want to achieve in your production?
Okay, I'm gonna approach this question in there's only one thing about it, is the group communication. When first we have two camera operators, there's a director and there's one camera operator who's handling the camera. I have communicated with the director first. We are talking about what we have wanted for the B-rolls. What are we going to have? The effect of just now what I'm talking about, emotion value from lightning effect. We talked about it. So because of physical ability, I cannot follow two of them. So I follow camera operator who are handling the overall structure of B-roll. And I leave another director because I believe him that he, as a qualified photographer and videographer, he understands the value of my lighting. Because what I provide is a technical advice. It's not crucial, it's not a final decision. It was a advice in the sense that if you can do this, it's fine. If there's no, we can still adapt to it in the after post-production. Therefore, they have to come with the editor and check the white balance of the video in the sense that we have to fine-tune what is the lighting that we wanted, therefore we put inside the video. I cannot say that I have a decision over the editor. I'm just having a suggestion that if possible, this lighting and this lighting will affect the storyline, the emotion flow of the storyline.
So the end result, what do you think?
Yes, I am quite happy actually.
No, I mean, did you think the B-roll deliver?
Oh yeah, yes. Because there's a lot of B-roll that you didn't see in behind it. There's much more. There's worse, there's good, there's bad, and then there's the ugly one. The most important that what we showed, I am actually quite happy with what the B-roll are showing here in the final production because with the group effort in becoming in this question, I'm actually happy and actually grateful and thankful in the sense that we have managed to come up with a sequence that is okay, good in lighting effect.
Okay, my last question. As one of the production team, which is the lighting man.
Yeah.
Okay. How aware are you about this artistic, cultural, and ethical issue that your program create or raise? In terms of the cultural, ethical, or artistic?
Since the approach of the firm is actually more on reality, it's less on art and more on culture, I believe that the lighting effect actually can create it's not final, it's actually, it helped to bring out the cultural difference of the refugee and the Malaysian. Just based on the interview itself, you can see from them. And the cultural value of this production, I think it's quite good in the sense that we tackle an issue that many of us didn't acknowledge in the first place because coming in the sense that in the local, refugee is a problem, but it's not that crucial of a problem for the local. But for them, it was crucial in the sense that their life are depending on it. The way the cultural approach and the art form approach of this we can just bring back that we are, as in reality, as we're talking about the Boboton and Taketon thing, is what you achieve is we want the character to project themselves into the feeling of the character. This is I think is the ultimate, if possible. You want to feel the struggle and they are facing as a refugee. For the audience, this is the cultural effect of this video production. It's what we're hoping to achieve using like techniques.
Yeah. Alright, so I think that's it really. Thank you so much for your explanation.
Thank you, Sister. Hey, thank you, Sister. Hey, thank you.
Sorry, my role was audio man, the sound manager, in charge of the sound, the volume during production and post-production as well. So, okay, during post-production, during pre-production, what I did was, I was the one that I looked up for resources to get an understanding about how audio really works, such as how do I pick up a certain equipment that fits during the video scene, and it's about some stuff relating to post-production stuff as well. And the key thing what I learned about sound is that sound is very important to documentary, because sound plays a part in emotion, and visual images are messages that send out to people. So that's what I learned during post-production. Set up equipment, because I'm inside an additional job, I need to logistics as well. So I handle the equipment, the camera, the sound, and mainly I'm just a sound guy. So what sound equipment I used was Zoom mic, lavalier, and shotgun mic. Okay, so during production, what we did was that we specifically chosen lavalier mic, because the main interview, lavalier mic is the right fit to do. Because you pick up voice easily and it's just one direction. Shotgun mic are those footages that pick up on the go action footages. We took footages like on the go, not static. Basically, some summary, lavalier mics are static shot, and those are the movement are all using shotgun mic. And Zoom mic as part of the backup, as a backup mic if anything just gone into missing or action. One key thing that I learned in audio was that the sensitivity. Unlike my previous documentary, what's a failure is that the sound is too distorted because it's too loud. The AF peak is over the red line. In this time, the sensitivity is set to a balance 26-36. So it has a background noise, but then again, you pick up the main source of voice louder. Same. This applies to camera as well, because the camera in camera setting. There's the setting is called manual or sound change as well. So in lavalier, you just put at one, while the shotgun just put in between. So you can pick up a good audio quality. And post production is what I did in post production is that I handle the VGN. I work with the producer. So and work with producer, director, and editor. So I talk to them about what kind of music do they want to go. Initially, we are in the same pace of like, what we did is that I sent a lot of BGM release from too dramatic of the song and a bit too subtle, because we have I sent out 2 versions just in case anything goes occur. So there's a total of like 15 tracks, including 1 track I did myself as well with a friend of mine. So I have a background knowledge of the digital audio workstation known as DAW. So during post-production, we decided to pick 3 soundtracks that suits the video, because why do we pick these 3 music was because this music sustains of what our documentary want. We want the audio of the quality to do the talking instead of the music. If it's too much music, we will distract the audience from what's the initial goal of the message we want to convey. As I said, sound is the one that plays emotion, and while visual images are the message that goes kind of send out and convey to us. And basically, I work with the editor about the audio quality. So we did about the gains, like in some cases, like some are too soft, so we higher up the volume and we play the equalization. I think that's it for my role as a soundman of what I did.
Okay. Right. My first question is, okay, do you understand the whole objective objective and aim of the story, right? And
Yes,
this
yes.
is pre-production.
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Basically, the story is about a personal profile of our Ustaz Rafiq and how he explained like on behalf of like one of the refugees.
What do you want to achieve anyway in the story?
To able the audience to understand that there is refugee in Malaysia, and they are basically they are all saturated by the media that no one actually touched upon that there are refugees in Malaysia that needed help as well. So Ustaz Rafiq is the main guy to just convey the messages. He's like a representative.
Alright. So when we go through your video, right,
Okay.
we find one problem in the video.
Alright.
The rest is achievable, but one more thing is not achieved in the video is the emotion value
I see.
in the story. So like what you said just now, music is some part that part of the musician in the story.
Yes, it's a visual.
It helps us to it helps the story to to enhance the mood
Yes,
and
exactly.
the emotion of the value.
Exactly.
But what we see in the final video is some part is made of music
Yes.
or sound. Okay, but like what you explained to us just now, because you don't want audience to get interrupt with those music, because
Yes.
you want them to
Minimalistic
focus.
music.
Yes.
Minimal
But-
focus on the vocal of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is, did you realize some insert footage that you have in the final video should have the ambient sound or any music to support it? Did you realize that, or
I realized that, but I will object it because what we are, all of our goal, we are on the same page. We do not want to dramatize that documentary because a documentary is like actual fact. We do not want any ambient sound effect. We just want simple background music. Because as I said, we want the vocal to the video, not dramatize. If we dramatize it, it will be like Nat Geo or Discovery Channel to over dramatize a documentary. We don't want it. We are not heading towards that kind of inspiration part. We want to just tell actual fact that the guy telling a story. Good example would be Wise. Minimalistic big background music, more into the talking to the emotions.
okay? And then next question is, when you look at the final video, there's a lot of archive footage in the beginning part.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So as a sound man
Yes.
or as an audio man,
Yes.
how do you find that audio in that? Because yes, of course that is archive, that you can't do nothing
Yeah,
with that
exactly,
is
exactly.
sound and audio because it's an archive.
Yes.
But as a sound man, did you feel that the beginning part is to really enhance our mood, as especially the audience, to watch the movie,
Yes.
to watch the story?
It does. It does. It's like if
The
you-
choice of the archive footage.
Yes, if you ever notice, it goes well with the music as well. It has a sort of fast pace. Then you fast pace. What you do is that we fast pace. So we fast pace the music and the momentum of the archive footage as well. So when you reach to the personality of the face, it slows down. Then you can see it slows down, slows down, slows down. It's that the stables. So we just want it to make it. Not, as I said, it's not dramatized. At the beginning, it's just dramatized because it's just like a journalism format where you want to share, you want to put as much content in just one small frame of a second.
Okay, our concern, frankly speaking, is see with the emotional value of storytelling. Okay, brought to many of your team members. Okay, and a few of them felt that there is missing parts there.
Yes.
Okay, and just now you say you still feel that it's okay. To us, we still feel it's not okay because what happens is, if you want the audience to feel the misery that the Rohingya people are going through, you got to a little bit dramatize the video. Because if you don't dramatize the video, you cannot feel it. So what is this conflict about? What is he fighting a cause for? He's fighting a cause for what? You see, there must be some sort of dramatization. That's what Sinam mentioned. Now the beginning part and all this part, it should be maybe a little bit more be more realistic. You see, sometimes sound you don't need to really dramatize. You can. I think that is. You are consulted with your editor yesterday, and he did something at the end, but I don't think because we have time constraint, he didn't do much. Because, like for example, baby crying, they are not really big sound already, but it brings up the struggles that these people are going through. So the soft emotional values in the video to dramatize the misery, then the audience felt the way that this great hero is doing something. It's a balance.
Like what you said, like Ustaz Rafiq is the perspective. You take all the story from Ustaz Rafiq's perspective, but we can't see it clearly. It's just a verbal.
Yeah.
Like what you explained to us just now, it's just verbal,
Yeah.
but we can't see the visual. So that's what we're trying to say. Supposedly you have to put. That's why I'm asking you just now, as a soundman. If you look at the beginning part of the archive, you agree with the archive chosen, or if you are someone, you have any archive that more powerful than that?
Actually,
That's my
I
question.
agree with it because it relates. Because the archive we choose, because we work together. So the archive we choose is that we he asked me about the sound. So is this suit this battlefield music? So we choose specifically to achieve the music. I had the music as I said, so we choose specifically to fit the edition, the first archive as well. And you can see as the music is slowly drags towards the percentage profile. There's a flow in it, but but I can agree it's not too much of a dramatize because as we as a group we decided to not too dramatize. We want to make it a subtle kind of video documentary.
Regarding pacing, do you think your pacing in the video is good enough as a sound guy?
I don't think it's good enough, but however, I do think it's alright. I don't think it's like the best top notch, but I think it's alright. Like what I could gain out of the interview and out doing post production, what I can place implement is fine. It's fine. So far it's fine comparing to the previous documentary we did.
Because what happens is those pacings are actually important, and those pacings are where you actually use those advantage to bring out the emotions in the video. Like for example, one piece of area, we don't talk about talk about the short footages where you show into the village where they are actually showing into the village time.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
That area is just cold. So that is the piece that is something that actually you are supposed to highlight a bit of the misery these type of people that are going through. So it helps us help the audience to actually feel it.
Yes. What is this? What is this? Something curious.
Then this guy comes up, he's trying to tackle these issues. So everything is linked. Like for example, the cultural aspect, cultural and ethical aspect in the video. I only heard the prayer. Correct?
Yeah, the prayer.
It's the only thing that is there, but other areas don't have. So those are things that are the values in the emotions that you can bring up, because it's reality. It's reality that people are there and people can feel. I got to be part of the Rohini to feel what Rafi is trying to help me. I got to be part of it. So the audience must feel that I'm
Basically, you want those minimal sound samples make a huge impact that they could be involved in the film.
Yes. So that means I am in it. Actually, I feel I am actually one of the Rohini. I am in this suffering type thing. Then that Rafi guy plays a part in what telling me to understand what is he trying to tell me. So I got to feel these two personality. I cannot be the middleman. I cannot be the middleman to as an audience. I cannot be the middleman. That's why it's always in all documentaries you must have a balance. We cannot force people to just, this is what I want you to believe, this is what I want you to believe. You've got to be a balance. So where do I stand? I stand in Rafiq or stand in this one? Where do I stand? I got to be a middle person as an audience. So that is what is lacking in the audios that we felt that you could have a bit more on the emotional point. This is one of your selling point in your proposal, which you felt it is still lacking. Okay? Maybe
One more question here. How actually you see as a lighting man? Audio man.
Okay.
How do you see the whole production work?
Everyone-
It can relate to director and
Everyone was doing very well because everyone was actually involved with it. Everyone is involved with it. Even I also did an extended mile. Like I never did music. Like I have knowledge of audio workstation, but they told me like if you can do original music, we did. So I did original music. However, it's rejected because it doesn't fit the theme. It's a bit too much to the. Even though I listen to music as well, it's a bit too much to fit in the documentary. And yeah, I basically.
Did you argue that with your director?
Yes, we did. We did. I did. I mean, I understand the justification, like what direction you want to go. So we cut off the music. But however, they told me to find more music which is more suitable for the documentary and stuff.
For example, in the final video?
Yeah, the two stream music, and including prayer.
So what actually through this whole process in this production, what do you actually learn?
I learned a lot in audio, in the technical audio side. I actually learned a lot because I learned how to mic adjustment placement, the balancing level. I learned even after post production. I also learned how to set up the music and lower the BPM and stuff and high the gain of the audio quality. I learned in my side. I learned a lot. That's why the audio is in terms if you look at the audio of the interviewers and the shotgun mic, it's actually quite clear, crystal clear. There's no distortion, not too over loud, not too overlapping. It's very clear. Because I took a look at it, I settled it. I make sure the audio is able to pick it up and make sure it doesn't go overboard, because once it go overboard, the audio will hit the roof and you'll hear distortion and it's too loud for it is, and it's not good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nasran. So I'm the editor of our documentary. The documentary is of course Seeking Refuge. Just a bit of a run through of what we are doing with Seeking Refuge is what we want to look is in the main storyline is actually to see the refugee issue through the point of view of Rafiq. Rafiq being the main character in our documentary itself. So before we came up with this idea though, and talking about what I've done so far throughout this project, is the first thing that we did throughout the semester was actually to come up with a concept for our documentary. So before we talk about Seeking Refuge, I'll talk about our planning phase, finding an idea of what we want to do for our documentary. So as a group, as a whole, we decided we didn't want to do something too surface level, but also didn't want to tackle something too dry, in the sense that we didn't want something to be too sad, too grim. We wanted something that had a little bit more variation when it comes to emotion. So personally for me, the idea that I had come up with was the autistic mother, and actually we progressed with that for quite a bit. We planned out how to shoot, how we want the feel, the look and feel to be like. So we even had a bit of a proposal for it, but unfortunately when I contacted my contact person, she did not want to do that kind of presentation anymore, and we couldn't find another character who would be as appealing as her if we do a documentary about autistic mothers, so we kind of scrapped the idea. So technically I was supposed to be the director of that idea, but since we changed to a different idea, it was Khalil's idea, the other person in our group, and he is now the director. So the idea that we went with right now is Seeking Refuge. So as an editor, this would be the first time for me personally to be an editor, the main editor. I have assisted before in little projects or past assignments or just work with friends, I have dabbled in it. It's not to say I'm not aware of his presence at all, but I'm not exactly the most comfortable person when it comes to editing. So there was a lot of things for me to learn throughout the process of this assignment. So I'll just split up my presentation to 3 different phases. One is a pre-production phase, then production, then final post-production, which is the majority of what I do. But just briefly, what I did during pre-production is I helped out. So I did what I could. So I was thinking, as an editor, it would be best, especially one who is not too comfortable editing yet. So I want to make sure, in my mind at least, I participate in the pre-production and production so that I know what is the idea, what is the path that we want to go through when we have the finished product. So pre-production, I helped a bit with the research, I helped a bit with the paperwork, but mostly I followed them whenever we want to scout out a location. So for example, the final location is of course my welfare with Mr. Rafiq, and I followed on the first excursion over there. We had a bit of look and feel, and personally as the editor, I get to picture a bit. I guess it's more of the camera look of what angle would be nice, but then I can see what characters are interesting. So when I actually enter the post-production phase, I can move forward and it becomes a lot smoother than the process of editing if you know your subject matter. So that was me during pre-production. During production, we didn't have that many manpower. Overall, we had about 7 people. So I helped where I could with audio, maybe just simply holding the microphone, something as simple as that. But I also handled a bit of the main camera. Since the main camera does not need to be handled too much, it doesn't need to move around, I just made sure that it was rolling, simple basics, I made sure the surrounding is okay, just double checking on the shots, just helping the main cameraman, Trisha by the way, just take a look at, if she needed someone to confirm what she's doing, I can help out on that. Basically, I'm just the assistant over there. Because editing wise, now looking back, I guess what I could have done during the production phase is organizing all the files that we have. Because when it came to the pre-production phase, one thing I realized, we had a lot of footages to work with, and it was quite a hassle to go through every single one, and it was quite stressful beginning of the post-production phase. So moving forward, the next time we run into a new production, I would think it would be better if every day, let's say we have 3 days worth of shoot, every day, at the end of the day, I should at least categorize which shot into which shot, so that when it comes to pre-production, I just have these files to look into, and even if I forget, I can just sort it out better after that. So pre-production, so during production is what I've done and what I should do. Post-production is where it's the majority of my work. First thing what we had to do, as I mentioned before, was go through all the footages. After that, it was mainly setting a story. Looking back, right, what we done for the story was, as I mentioned before, what we aimed was to highlight the issue of refugees through the point of view of Mr. Rafiq. But the thing is, when editing that time, what we didn't really anticipate was his answers during the interview to be quite varied and quite different from what we imagined. So when cutting up the story for the main timeline, it was kind of difficult to get what we want to portray, so we had to adjust here and there. Mr. Cyrus, of course, gave his input, and it was good so that we can readjust what we have done so far, and we can adjust the timeline. My job, I always work together with the director and also the producer, Khalil and Justin. I would come up with a basic timeline of what the overall video would be, and they would give their input whether this was based on their artistic view or based on Khalil's view of this video should be. So they give their input and I just change here and there, change here and there. Basically, I'm here to make the finished product through the point of view of our director and producer. And that was basically the entire flow of how it worked. We worked offline edits first, meaning setting all the storyline. Audio-wise, I did not really bother too much other than just, we can hear and we cannot hear. I asked the assistance of Junting, he's our audio man. He came up with, earlier on, during the post-production phase, as soon as we entered the post-production, I asked Junting to come up with a few example songs and come up with a song library for our BGM. And this was something that, honestly, I'm a bit proud of. What we did was, we made sure we have a backup file because I was afraid that what if what we were editing all is on one laptop, if it goes kaput, then we lose our entire project. So what we did was, we used a simple Google Drive. It was only like $2 US for a whole month, and we get about 150 gigs worth of storage. So we stored everything there, all the footages, all the B-rolls, all the main interviews, audio, and that's where, once again, going back to Junting, is where I asked him to store all the music or background music or whatever field music that we want to use to be placed over there. So it's just more of a streamlining our work process during the post-production. Post-production took about 2 weeks or a little bit more, and it was the majority of our edits. Once again, it's a documentary, so the look and feel that we are aiming for is nothing too heavily edited online-wise. So it was more making sure the story was presented well, the story was understood. So every time when we came in to talk to Mr. Sayas, to talk to Mr. Sinta about how well our production is going, or rather how not it is going, what we were looking at was the pacing of the story. That was a big concern throughout this production, the pacing, because it always felt too fast, it always felt too compact, there was too much going on. So over time we were just filling in space, giving it time to breathe, so that our audience, when they watch the video, they can understand the concept and the stories that's being told. We kind of split up the story to form of arc, because it was more of a personal story, the struggles, a bit grim, it's a bit heavy, about Rafiq being struggling over as a Rohingya or in Myanmar, and him wanting to leave the country. And then it moves on to a bit more of political issues, the issues over in Myanmar, what they're facing. And then we kind of, something me and Justin kind of agreed, we want to end a bit on a lighter note so that we have a bit of positivity in the video. And that is why at the end of the video, it comes more towards Rafiq himself, or what his point of view. Of course, he's a very religious man, he's an Ustad, so he gave a lot of points on religion itself, how religion should be. And it was interesting to see how his view is sort of very passive, and I kind of like it that it gives a point of view of Islam, especially now being touted as a very terrorist-like religion. And so we want to point that out, because that was him. We want to highlight him, and that is him. Of course, a bit about his children that was mentioned as well at the end, and of course his hopes and dreams for the future. He might be a refugee, and there's a lot of talk these days about immigrants and refugees being running away to countries just for the sake of it. And I think it was very important for us to get the bit at the end where Rafiq mentions, if the issues in Myanmar is solved, we will want to go back to Myanmar. I think that is a very important part of the video, and it sums up the entirety of the video. They might be seeking refuge, but overall, they still want to go home if possible. Online edits, there was nothing much to do. Of course, there was a color correction. We did shots indoor, outdoor, so we had to balance out the temperature of the shots. Audio-wise, it was just measuring the balance. I understand there's quite some certain footage has a certain degree of noise in it, and honestly, I think it was something that we could be improved during the shoot phase itself. But overall, I don't think it harmed too much. It gave a bit of a feel of the location. It is a shelter, it is a place for refugees to come over and get food, get help. So it had that busy feel to it, which is helpful, I guess, in a way. Anything else that I could mention? Oh, okay, so the storyline itself, just bring it back again. I mentioned before that we portioned it into three different parts, three main parts. We had like sequences, and once again the emphasis to give a space to breathe. So they were basically montages, mini montages of people there, so that the audience, when they watch it, yeah, I understand the struggles of the people, so this is them. It doesn't really need to relate too much. It's more just showing who are we talking about. When we talk about refugee, it gives them the face to the people who are talking about. And that is very quite important also, I feel. And once again, those montages give space for the audience to absorb whatever information they receive. One of the issues that I realized throughout the production phase is balancing the differences between Rafiq, our main character in the documentary, as well as our input character, which is the judge. And basically, these two have very different tones when it comes to presenting their ideas. Rafiq was very emotional, very pressing. He was angry at times, he was shouting at times. He really wanted to pass his points. But then the judge, however, he's a bit more passive, he's a bit more laid back. I guess it's expected. He is a man who is in his later years. He's sitting in his home where we interviewed him, and he was speaking very, very passively, I would say. it's not to say that he does not mean what he said, but his tone, it can be very jarring when we interconnect the two audiences, Rafiq as well as the judge, because it was like high pitch, then suddenly the pace suddenly breaks, and then it continues back to Rafiq, which is high energy again, and it goes back. So what we did was making sure we got the correct portions of the interview from the judge, making sure what we got what was important, and also the emotional feel did not feel too jarring. So we tried our best on that sense. Okay, another feedback that we had after our first or second cut of our basic timeline was we lacked picturing, we lacked allowing the video to show the struggles of in Myanmar too much. That's what Mr. Cyrus commented, and I understand, yes, it's true that over there they are struggling, it's a war, people are dying, and we are not giving that picture well enough. That's why we implemented quite a lot of stock footages of Rohingyans in trouble. They might not be as accurate as they should be, but I believe they conveyed the feel that they needed to be conveyed. Of course, we left the links, that was a key factor as well, naming the characters, and yeah, bits and pieces here and there. So overall, that was a production phase. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, but I'm open for questions now. So okay, going back to the question was, did the production do well enough in terms of focusing on its target audience as well as achieving its aim for the documentary, right? Yeah, so okay, so first the aim of the documentary, to rephrase once again, it is to portray the issues of refugees through the point of view of Rafiq. This, I believe personally, to be achieved in the documentary, because we did that. We portrayed the issues in Rohingya during the first phase of the video. We portrayed why it occurred, the political issues within it, and how it is not actually the religious tensions between Buddhism and Islam in the country itself. I think that was well portrayed. And then we moved back to Rafiq to give his point of view and the struggles of refugees outside of Myanmar as well. And since we interviewed mainly Rafiq, that was what we wanted to do. So we did give that point of view, Rafiq as our main character, speaking the plight of the Myanmar people. So going back to our target audience, honestly, personally, I feel that audience, for me, I don't really care who watches the video, because what I want is for people to understand the story. This is something that we are trying to tell to people, to everyone, about the struggles of Myanmar people over there. So yes, we might have a very audience group. We might have little kids watching it and not understanding all the different words being used by Rafiq. We might have elderly people who are not too aware of the issues of Myanmar, and they might not care too much for the video. But the idea of this documentary is not to cater to their desire, but we want to be as truthfully, as passionately as possible, convey the issues of Rohingyans through the point of view of Rafiq Ismail, and that I think we achieved. Hopefully anyone who watches it can learn a thing or two. And what we hope from our target audience, which is basically everyone who cares, is that they will develop a sentiment that gives them the feeling that they want to help. So that is my hope, and I think we did achieve our aim of our documentary.
Because what happened is,
yeah.
The production is in one language. Of course, there's a mixture of a few words here and there in English. So what happens is your target audience becomes narrowed down to particular people.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you, do you think that the choice of your production that you give it bahasa and subtitle,
whether it will affect,
whether achieve what you are actually intended to do?
Okay, so the choice to convey the interview in bahasa, I think, was a good one, because during the interview itself, we tried to run the interview in English. However, Rafiq he can speak English, it's not saying he cannot, but he's not the most fluent person at it, and after the first 5-10 minutes or so, the interview felt very superficial. He wasn't really explaining to the fullest. So we reverted, we stopped for a bit, we ran the interview again, and we tried it in Bahasa, and there he was explaining a lot deeper. There's a lot more emotion in it, and I think it's okay. for a documentary talking about Rohingyan people and them being refugees here in Malaysia, Malaysia being a country where Bahasa Malaysia is the official language, I think outsiders will be able to understand. Let's say I'm not Malaysian. If I'm not Malaysian and I'm watching this documentary made by Malaysians about refugees in Malaysia, I would totally understand why it is spoken in Bahasa. Personally, I watch a lot of anime and I enjoy watching Japanese cartoons spoken in Japanese and reading the subtitles compared to it being dubbed in English. And of course, there might be a bit of information being mistranslated here and there, but that's the risk that we take in maintaining its originality. And I think artistic-wise, presentation-wise, it was a good choice to do it in Malay rather than English.
Okay, the next question I think Sinta will also be asking is connected to actually tone of the whole video.
Okay.
Okay, the tone of the whole video which connects a lot of things, okay, because you are the last person to present, so it got to actually summarize as a whole.
Okay.
So like for example, lighting in the film, okay, sound in the film, emotional aspect in the film. So all these are tone of the video. So
And
as
also the camera work in the
so all these are actually part and parcel of the editor's job to make sure it meets
the aims and the
So each one has mentioned their part. So how do you see lighting in your film to bring out the tone in the video?
Okay, so I guess we're going through every single aspect, right? So okay, let's start with lighting. Lighting in the documentary was a challenge to work with. One was when we were interviewed indoor, it was kind of dark, and that's why some footages we had to work with had a bit of a high noise level, which it wasn't too bad or degrading till it's unwatchable, but it's not the prettiest so to speak. So overall, I think Willie did a pretty good job on making sure that. So basically, it was just as simple as reminding us. Sometimes we would shoot like, yeah, sure, okay. Or Willie would be like, do you guys want to use a reflector? So we use a reflector when we can. Or maybe even just suggesting that we do the shoot nearer to the entrance of the building so that we get more natural light in. And overall, we used a lot of natural light in it. And it was quite okay. We're lucky we live in Malaysia, so the lighting is not too big of an issue. Overall, the tone fits what we wanted to achieve. We did choose a lot of black and white footages early on, representing the past and the grimness of the field. And I like the transition where our lighting was kind of bright overall during the interview phase, during the conversation with the judge. All this were relatively bright, right? So it gave that tone that we wanted in the first place, which was from grim to something a little ending on a bit of a lighter note. So it had that transition. Speaking about the judge interview itself, since it was a bit more of a more controlled environment, that was where I feel lighting would be the most punished if it were wrong. But I think we did it pretty well. The overall throughout the production phase, I'm not the biggest expert on lighting, but what Willie and he worked together with Khalil and Justin, the director and producer. What they did, all the three of them, was making sure, okay, maybe we can put this light up here for a bit of a warmer light. Because over at the house, there was yellow lights everywhere that we could utilize. There's also natural light coming in from the balcony that we could utilize. All this might not be seen through the video because of the shot that we chose, but it did play a role in creating the right lighting. So that is lighting for me. I think it's okay. It's okay. So sound, there were parts of the interview-wise, since we used a lapel mic, there were no problem with getting the audio. But sometimes it does get kind of noisy because the atmosphere itself at My Welfare, it gets pretty rowdy, especially we did a second interview phase. We intercutted everything, so it's not easy to see from the interview. But the second interview phase, where it was closer to the evening portion of the day, that's when the place is really busy. There were motorbike sounds around. And at first I asked Yuting, is this okay? Can we get rid of this? Do you have any idea? Maybe you can put a BGM to hide all of this. But then looking back, talking back to Justin and Khalil, actually it's fine. It gives the feel of the video. This is not a hotel. It's not going to be quiet 24/7. There will be noise. There will be people moving in and out. It's not going to be perfect. And that's what we want to show. So sound-wise, I think it's okay. Background music, some of them,
it was difficult to agree on a good background music. We had the library, Junting gave us the ideas, but me, Junting, the audio man, as well as Khalil, the producer, Justin, the director, we all had different tastes. Let's say I would like one, they wouldn't like one, and if Justin would like one, we all wouldn't like one. So the final product is what it is. Personally, I think it's okay. I would have liked a bit more of a minimal sound to it and a bit more held back. But overall, audio was well composed. There's nothing too jarring in the video. I don't think it distracted. So that's the purpose of the audio, right? To convey the message. And if it did that without ringing any alarms in your head saying that what's wrong with that, I think it did its job. It might not be perfect, but it's good enough. So lighting, audio. So now move on to camera work. Okay, sorry.
Before we move on, because we're trying to piece everything together.
Okay.
Our comment was the same. So regarding lighting, okay, do you feel that the lighting in the whole video really deliver the emotions that you want to tell the story? Is it enough?
Is it enough? I believe so. Personally, I think when we finished the documentary, the full edits, we were quite happy with what we did. I do think it is enough. Beginning, it was just the montage shot of past history, so that was black and white, so lighting did not really have much of an impact. It could have been dimmer, I guess, but overall it's okay. And the feel, I guess, if you want to talk about something a little bit more grim, then it could have been dimmer. But our point of view, yeah, it could have been. Okay. I mean, once we begin the interview phase with Mr. Rafiq, right, it could have been dimmer because we did it during the afternoon, 3 p.m. I believe. So, and it was right next to the entrance, right? It was shining down, and we could have toned it down a little bit, maybe kept it a little bit darker for that grim feel when it's talking about politics and all that. It's an artistic choice, I guess. I like how at the end it was bright, right? So the interview phase was bright. So if it is bright at the end, that is perfect. But I understand the choice to keep it that way, to maintain a straightforward look throughout the production, so that the whole interview phase, the middle and the end, had a similar feel. But the tone was still there, including through other aspects. Lighting is not the only one being shown, of course. The interview, the sound, it all supported the feel of growing lighter. The final montage of the individual portraits was done in bright lighting, and I think that conveyed the hope of a lighter, happier ending that we wanted.
Do you felt the misery of the Rohingya people?
Personally, I guess not really, because once again what we did was a point of view, Rafiq's thoughts on the suffering of the Rohingyans, right? So what I felt mostly was not really the sufferings of the Rohingyans, but mainly Rafiq's anger. That's what I felt from the video. I felt that I saw this guy and I saw him ranting, and I felt that he is truly pissed that this issue is not being solved. He's truly pissed that the Rohingyans are treated this way. When he points out issues like these people, they are not given the amount of education that they deserve. They don't receive this, and that I managed to connect to. And going back to our goal of the documentary, and I think that is achieved because what we want to do was present Rafiq's point of view on the issue of Rohingyans over in Myanmar, and I felt that anger, I felt that frustration from him. He wanted to do more. He even says that he's tired. He's tired of all this. Even his wife told him to stop, but he keeps doing it because he knows he's right in what he's doing. And I felt his emotions, his attitude towards it. So I might not feel as much as I should, I guess, about the struggles of the Rohingyans, but what we aim to do and what I felt, I think, were in line. That is Rafiq's frustrations.
Okay, what we have a consensus with feeling is lack of emotion in the Rohingya people, which
Sadness?
Yes.
Okay.
The rest of the thing is achievable,
Okay.
but the only thing is not achieved in the story is the emotion part, because when we go back to your proposal,
Okay.
you talk about the struggle of the Rohingya people towards from the perspective of
Rafiq,
Rafiq.
yes.
But the thing is, it's just a verbal from Rafiq, but we can't see the visual.
Well,
It's lack in terms of the visual, in
Sound.
lack in terms of the sound to enhance that feelings and emotion. Yes, in part of Rafiq, very complete message. We feel it, like what you said just now. You feel the frustration of the sadness. You feel the how Rafiq anger with this, pissed off with this issue. But the thing is, it's only verbal and through Rafiq.
Okay, so basically,
Yeah.
you should have had more B-rolls to show the
something like
suffering
that.
of the Myanmar.
Enhance in terms of the soundness.
Yeah,
Not really.
heroes is color correction. It made it much more sadder type of thing for them.
But then even if
in
it's
your part, as
yeah, but even if it's sadder, right, it's still just Rafiq. If you're talking about visuals.
Heroes, I told them heroes.
Oh, B-rolls. I thought you said it was just color correction.
So I said heroes they were color corrected because we asked question to the line.
Okay. Yeah. I get what you mean now.
we ask the same thing to the stuntman also. What you can do to advance more on the.
I get what you're referring to. How he's talking about something very grim and the B-rolls are very bright. Okay. Now I understand. Okay, honestly, I like that. If you want to call it style, I like that style. It might not be something that, I guess I understand your point of view. Yes, you could have made it a bit more grim through the B-rolls, but as I told you, the whole tone of the video, right, is about being like from something grim to something a bit happier. So there's that difference, right? So what we want to do was a bit of contradiction as well when we edit in the B-rolls, when we put it in. All those B-rolls, they were bright and happy, and she even sometimes showed Rafiq smiling and their cohesiveness. Well, because what he's talking about is about struggles in Myanmar, all the suffering of Myanmar people, so he's angry. Then we include the contradiction of these people like building a life, building a culture, getting back on their own feet here in Malaysia. So here in Malaysia, they're not sad anymore. It might not be great, but it's not as bad as being in Myanmar. So it provided that contradiction that, yes, even though he's talking about something really sad, but then, so as the audience, they process, right, what he's talking about, wow, they're getting bombed, they're getting killed, they're not getting I'll say their more education that they deserve, the Myanmars are being oppressed. Well, when you hear that in process, wow, that's really sad. Then the visuals start playing of them here in Malaysia at My Welfare, being taken care of, they're receiving education. We even included those visuals of them having daily classes. Those classes are run every day for the future generation of the Myanmar refugees. So that is of a happier note. If we make everything grim, I think we lose the value of that contradiction. I guess, yes, if you make everything a bit darker, you could deliver a sadder feel, a bit more of an emotional pull, but it's not the direction that I personally want to go. I like the contradiction between the two because it gives another layer to the documentary. So basically what I'm saying is I do not want to make it darker.
It's not to say darker. As an audience,
sadder.
As an audience, you got to feel the film. You must have feeling for the film. So I cannot feel just for Rafiq. I cannot feel just for Rafiq. If I cannot feel the Rohingya suffering, what is Rafiq so great about? What is he talking about?
So basically, yeah, it's true. If you don't showcase the issues of the Rohingyans, then there's less value to the work done by Rafiq, I guess.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
So it's not connected to sound.
Connected to
everything is connected.
Alright, and one more thing. I think this is the last question.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one.
Okay.
When you look at all the camera composition, right, the camera work composition and all that, just mostly based on your director explanation and the cameraman explanation, it's more on one shot, which is the applied space technique. Okay, you want to give more breathing to the shot. Okay, as an editor, when you look at it, in the final cut. Did you totally agree with all the shot given to you, or you have some argument on it?
Okay, let me just process a little bit, because totally agree is a very strong word. And
That's my question.
all this is relative, it's quite subjective in a manner. I enjoy the view of the interview itself, the main interview, because the original idea, like even I suggested, was to do it sitting down on a chair or a table nearby. And then it was Justin's idea to bring him over to sit him down on a mat because it's more down to earth. There might be like a hidden meaning behind it, but overall I just like the look of him sitting down on the ground. And the space that was given, it might feel empty at times, and as an editor, because when you want to cut out content from the interview, right, and when you have a lot of space, there's a lot of things that's not being controlled. So to make things look clean is not really as easy because you can see people moving around, and if I jump cut, then you can't see the people that appear and disappear in the background. It might not be so obvious, but I guess on a third, fourth view, it would like be like, hey, wasn't that guy there? And suddenly he's gone and he's back. So editing becomes a lot more challenging. So I can't say that I love it that much, but I understand the want to have that space, because that space is not only just for breathing space. Putting Rafiq in the middle of a wide shot also allows for the people around the center to walk around, so that as an audience, when you watch, you see people around Rafiq, you know that he's not alone. You also get the feel, get the feel without saying it, that there are people over there. So we don't have to include a B-roll, it serves its purpose as well. Rafiq and people, and the space, yeah, it does give space, it gives him, does not feel so trapped. If you want to look at it in an artistic manner, he is out of Myanmar, he's not trapped anymore, and I agree with it. It's more challenging to work with, but I understand the goal of it, and therefore try our best to achieve it.
Okay, also I noticed there are a lot of shots that are not used, even though I didn't rush to see the footages at all.
Okay.
Because one or two members of the team did show some clips that are actually not appearing in the edited video. So I just want to hear your comment. Yes, it's a very clean final cut that you all wanted to be what you call head. Just head and cutting.
You mean the final one?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So you all didn't make use of all the hand gesture and all those things. What's the reason?
So for the final montage, it is an artistic concept that I don't know whether it's right saying this, but me and Justin, we had a trip last year, right? We went to Sunderland. Then after that, me and Justin, we went a bit on an excursion to Amsterdam. So when we were in Amsterdam, we saw this video made by the Prostitution Museum, and they had this concept that we really liked, which was to establish a character. They would just hold and still a shot of a person for them being prostitutes. So they just hold a shot and just have him stand there, not saying anything, him or her. And that's how they established the character, and we really liked what we had of it. For us as a viewer, when we came out of the museum, we were like, yeah, that left an impact. We really remember the scene, we really remember those characters, it really worked. So that's what we wanted to achieve when we are talking, and under that montage was Rafiq speaking about how them as a race, as a community of refugees, if the issue of Myanmar was solved, they will return to their home country. So showcasing the emotional value of a character, of a person, the one that we did with all the head room, all the head montages, I think it gives way more value to make eye contact so that you see this individual. And so that's why we chose head, to show people. We show hands, it does not convey the same amount of feeling because you're not staring a person right into the eye. If you think about it, it's a bit of like breaking the fourth wall, because the characters, they're staring right into the audience eyes. They are communicating one-to-one. When Rafiq is saying that, you see the people, the refugees themselves looking back at you, and they are saying, yes, if we do not suffer all this, we would go home. We would be normal like you. That's what the refugees are saying. And that still shot was an artistic choice that I really agree, that I really like, the one that I really fight for, is just and not using hand gestures, because I think if for that particular montage, if we included more of those hand gestures, I think it would just take away from the feel, because instead of pump sort of feel, like just step by step building up the emotion, you lose that because it's like detracting away from the momentum. And the final shot that we chose was the girl as she was looking down, because she was the only one that was different. So it was like building up, building up, building up. Then you see this image of a girl who's like face down, and she stares at you at the end, and then the end's right there. I believe for me it gives an emotional impact, and if we include hand gestures in that montage, it wouldn't really help.
The editing wise in the last part, the one that we advise editor to do, where actually to end the story, there's a graphic voice.
Yes.
Graphic voice, but on top of it is the faces of the people.
That's one.
Yeah, the one that we're talking about. But why did you include it like that? Why you didn't put graphic at the end?
You mean end graphic?
Yes.
Yeah, so remember the one I just mentioned about the girl giving a lot of impact? So it was something that I asked Justin, do you want to include graphic at the end just to end the video since it is a video about him? And said, yeah, we could, but also this is a story about the people. So graphic is not the only one. It was a choice, and I don't think either choice is better or worse. It's just which you want to approach with. And Justin argued that the girl has more impact than what Rafiq was saying, because he was saying, and his facial expression wasn't as powerful as the girl, so we did not want to end with Rafiq. I wouldn't say I agree with it fully, but after watching the shot, I agree that the girl's image is stronger. It's nicer to end on a point there. But once again, it goes back to the story, so it was a difficult decision to make. If I were to change it, I would still leave it at that, but maybe after the credit roll, or maybe even during the credit roll, we show Rafiq once again, maybe just moving around, just to bring it back and wrap everything up. But I think I do agree that I want to leave the girl as the final shot, and then maybe just a break, just put it black, so that the audience gets to digest. That's how I see it.
You see can if you want to, if you can, because you see can give the space after you let part, you see can continue to because of that. It's not an issue. So it's not an issue, because what we are missing is everybody tells a story, there must be an ending. So no matter what, there must be an ending. So this Rohi, yes, both ways also can.
The technique is really good, but the thing is, we feel like there's a continuity of the shot that we have to look at, because no one wrap up the thing. It must be start with Rafiq and it must end with Rafiq.
If you do this one, if you end up after the moment, then you have a credit to wrap up thing.
Just to mention him.
Yes.
There's another thing. A struggle or what Rafiq was struggling a bit, then it's a wrap up.
Okay.
Correct. Because now it is not a wrap up.
Could I like sort of argue that since the issue is not solved yet, remember, and therefore that's why we left it there because they're still struggling right now. We can't say there's a conclusion to it. This issue has no conclusion yet.
Even Rafiq, there's a VO of Rafiq's, right? But we feel like
it's not.
The story still continue because you end it like that, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll look into it. I'll talk to the
tagline,
see what they think about it.
tagline will help to do it. If you want to give the girl as the last, tagline will help to wrap.
Maybe you can put something to wrap up. Yes, I know that you want to show that the girls actually, the expression is it's the best expression ever to enhance the mood. But
you're trying to touch people's feelings, so that's why we're talking about the whole video. It's not the still lacking in it. Understand? That's why we're saying the music and all these things are still lacking.
The rest is
what we're talking about.
They were completed, but the one thing left is the emotion.
Okay, this is the last one.
Okay, sure.
To overall, what's your overall learning
that you gain from this?
Okay, so first thing first, I realized editing is really hard. Crying out loud. Okay, because this is my first time that I actually headed editing for a video. Of course, Justin helped out. He has a lot of background when it comes to editing. So this was the decision that we came up with when we first started the documentary, we said, okay, let's all take roles that we have never sort of really done yet, so that we learn a thing or two from this documentary. And I've never done anything, and it is actually really hard to form a story just out of all these footages. On paper, in theory, to me, I was like, yeah, shit, what's so hard? We already got the interview, yeah, just slot in and so on. But to tell the story and cut that story into this little timeline that we had, it's a lot more difficult than I thought. So I got a lot of help from people around me. YouTube was a big help. So I learned a lot for me for editing, throughout the editing process, and also throughout production. I think we as a whole learned that making a video when we don't talk about such a heavy issue, we could have used a bit more time, a bit more planning to make everything a bit smoother. For example, we could have run an extra interview session just to get extra content. Let's say we wrapped up the final conclusion of our video. If we went an interview again, maybe we could have gotten extra content. If we had better planning, because one thing I realized when we went into this production, when we wanted to interview him and we had the questions ready, we had like a set of answers in mind, and so how we're going to structure those answers in the video. So everything was like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. We never took into consideration that Rafiq's answer might be different from what we hoped he would answer. So that's why the issue when we began the post-production began, that we didn't know how to proceed with this story. So I've learned personally how to structure a story better, why it is so difficult and why it is so important, because no matter how pretty you make a video, if the story is not there, if the progression of what he is telling is not there, then there's no point to it. So we made that our priority, and I think I learned the value of it. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.